The year is 594 of the Holy Calendar. A breathtaking panoramic shot reveals the legendary Arcanist Academy of Candria. Lost in a massive sea of anxious applicants, a 13-year-old boy with striking white hair gazes up at the imposing fortress. Absolutely epic, he whispers under his breath. Meet our main character, Louis Carroll. He scans the massive crowd, realizing thousands of desperate kids are fighting for the exact same dream. The tension in the air is suffocating. Louis, wait up! A frantic voice cuts through the chaos. He whips around to find a guy in glasses sprinting his way. It is Julian, his adoptive dad. He finally catches his breath, playfully roasting the kid for zooming off like an absolute track star. Right behind him trails his adoptive mom, Sister Sierra, looking completely stressed out. She frantically checks in with Louis. Did you pack your ID? What about the hair dye? She whispers, terrified someone might spot his unusual hair color. Louis flashes a confident grin, promising her everything is under control. But his swagger does not ease her panic at all. She practically begs him to back out. She is terrified he will be targeted, or worse, brutally attacked for those freakish hair and eye colors. The stakes are literally life and death. Dark rumors are constantly swirling that kids actually die during these brutal entrance exams. Julian gently steps in, placing a warm hand on her trembling shoulder. He reminds her of the harsh truth. Magic is the absolute only cure for Louis's mysterious condition. It is a do-or-die situation. In the entire Northern Empire, this is the one and only academy that lets commoners take the exam. This is literally their only shot at survival. The camera pans back to the glorious Candria Academy. This is not just any school. It is the absolute peak of arcane power. Built by the royal bloodline itself, it stands as one of the 10 legendary academies. It is a brutal training ground forged by the Empire's most overpowered grandmasters. Over the last decade, a handful of legendary, non-noble guardians have broken through the ranks, and almost all of them awakened their powers right here. Flashing a proud smile, Julian knows deep down, this cutthroat environment is exactly what his boy needs to level up. Taking a deep breath, Sister Sierra finally caves. The fear is still there, but she trusts them completely. Fired up, Louis looks them dead in the eye. He vows to become an absolute top-tier master. His gaze burns with unbreakable resolve. His ultimate endgame? To grind, get massively overpowered, and snatch the orphanage right back out of the greedy church's hands. That insanely bold flex leaves Sister Sierra completely frozen. Her jaw practically hits the floor. Tears stream down her face as she completely breaks down. She admits she relies on him way too much, unable to even stop his reckless, suicidal plans. Guilt eats her alive over the orphanage's fate, making her feel like an absolute failure of a mother. Julian immediately pulls her into a comforting hug. He whispers that she is a literal saint for carrying the weight of so many abandoned kids. Louis turns to his crying mom. With the purest, softest smile, he drops a massive truth bomb. I am only breathing right now because of you. He means every single word from the bottom of his heart. Boom. The screen glitches, pulling us deep into a tragic flashback of his past life. A life filled with absolute agony. Back then, the world of martial arts was his absolute obsession. It was the only dream keeping him sane, but his physical body was hopelessly broken. Severe asthma chained him to a hospital bed and a noisy respirator. He was a prisoner in his own flesh. The medical bills piled up so high that even his own parents started looking at him like a massive financial burden. But his inner fire never burned out. Stuck in a wheelchair, he became an absolute mastermind in martial arts theory. Years of insane, non-stop grinding finally paid off. He dropped a groundbreaking doctoral thesis, a literal masterclass on modern combat, proving that ancient martial arts could totally make a massive comeback. Overnight, he became a legendary scholar. The entire academic world was ready to crown him as the future of combat science. His genius brain was literally about to revolutionize the entire fighting industry and bring martial arts back from the dead. But then, a massive plot twist destroyed everything. A backstabbing, two-faced colleague flat out stole his entire thesis. With pure villain energy, the traitor framed him as the actual thief. He stripped our boy of his life's work and absolutely dragged his honor through the mud. The scumbag played the crowd perfectly, claiming a sick guy on life support could never write a masterpiece. He stole a lifetime of blood, sweat, and tears in one ruthless move. Completely shattered by the betrayal, his fragile body finally gave out. The ultimate gut punch? His own parents pulled the plug, leaving him to fade away. As the heart monitor flatlined, he had one final desperate wish. He just wanted more time, just a real chance to actually live. If reincarnation was real, he begged for a body that was not broken, a family that would not toss him aside like trash. And the universe finally answered. Snap back to reality. His soul crashes into a brand new timeline, the year 90 of the Holy Calendar, in the snowy village of Mantia, deep inside the Northern Empire of Candria, exactly 500 years before his current academy life. A much younger sister Sierra spots the abandoned baby. Another nun immediately panics, totally freaking out over the kid's creepy white hair and weird eyes. Louis's tiny baby brain is glitching out. "Where the hell am I?" his inner voice screams. "I should be 6 feet under right now." The scared nun throws a massive fit. She calls the baby a cursed omen, swearing he is going to bring straight-up doom to their facility. But Sierra? She just smiles like a literal angel. She shuts down the haters, declaring this baby is completely innocent. Refusing to abandon him, she scoops him up and gives our boy his legendary new name, Louis Carroll. The memories fade away, snapping him back to reality. Standing there, he cannot help but marvel at his insane luck. He finally scored the ultimate jackpot, a family who actually adores him, and a body that is not falling apart. It is everything he ever craved. But this cruel world refuses to let him chill. Without warning, an entitled aristocrat brutally shoves Sierra to the dirt. "Know your place, peasant," the snob barks. The violent impact sends her sprawling. "Mom!" Louis and Julian scream in unison, their blood running freezing cold as they scramble to catch her. The aristocratic trash just scoffs at them, openly ridiculing the delusion that a lowly commoner could ever reach the master rank. "Stop chasing pipe dreams. Trash." At those words, pure, unadulterated murder flashes behind Louis's eyes. A venomous hatred erupts in his chest. Meanwhile, the arrogant punk violently scrubs his hand, acting like he just touched a walking plague. "Gross. I got peasant dirt on me," the noble sneers with a twisted smirk. "Better wash this off before their bad luck infects my aura." Shaking with raw fury, Louis grinds his teeth so hard they might shatter. "You are dead meat," he growls under his breath. But right before he unleashes hell, Julian locks onto his arm with an iron grip, anchoring him in place. His father shoots him a dead serious glare, warning him silently that this is about the exam, not his ego. Sierra immediately steps in, desperately reminding her son of the vow he made. No brawling on campus, remember? She pleads with him to swallow his pride just this once. Torn between tearing that noble apart and breaking his mother's heart, Louis chokes down his explosive wrath. It takes every ounce of his willpower to extinguish his bloodlust. Sierra gently rests a warm hand on his trembling shoulder, and he mutters a heavy apology to his mother. The aristocratic bullies strut away, echoing with infuriating, hyena-like laughter. "Absolute cowards. Way to kill the vibe. Peasant," one lackey spits. "Count your blessings," bottom feeder. Another echoes, heading off to grab their exam tickets. Out of nowhere, the plaza erupts into absolute chaos. The massive crowd violently splits apart like the Red Sea. "Step back. Lord Kane has arrived," they scream. A striking blonde youth casually strides through the gap, dripping with main character energy. His overwhelming noble aura has the entire courtyard whispering in sheer awe. The guy is practically glowing with privilege. Whispers spread like wildfire. That is Kane Aranka, the golden boy, and future head of the elite Aranka bloodline. Watching these entitled elites parade around, Louis's burning rage crystallizes into absolute, ice-cold focus. "Delusional, rich brats," he sneers internally. His disgust multiplies with every breath they take. His eyes narrow, locking in a silent, deadly vow. This is way past simple teenage angst now. This is an unbreakable, steel-forged determination. "Just you wait," he promises to the heavens. "I am going to shatter your pathetic worldviews and show you exactly what happens when you cross a commoner." Sierra stares at her boy with heavy anxiety, but Louis just warmly grasps her hands, flashing a bulletproof smile. "Do not stress, Mom. I am crushing this exam and claiming that master title." But sitting quietly in the VIP section, the golden boy, Kane Aranka, catches every single word of Louis's insane declaration. The surrounding bullies burst into mocking laughter, but Louis does not even flinch. "I will master the arcane arts and force you all to eat your words." Fueled by this new fire, he waves goodbye to his folks and sprints straight into the lion's den. This time around, he vows, "I will climb to the absolute peak of power and utterly destroy anyone who threatens my people." He locks that promise into his soul, flashing back to the warm, beaming faces of the family who saved him. A fearless grin stretches across his face. Back at the gate, Sierra watches his shrinking silhouette, her heart twisted in knots. "Can he actually survive this?" she whispers. "The Academy only accepts 20 to 30 elites annually, and they are looking at 20,000 bloodthirsty applicants today. I just want our boy to come home in one piece." But Julian simply wraps a comforting arm around her. "That kid's willpower is downright terrifying," he states with absolute certainty, trusting his son's grit. When Louis locks onto a target, he bulldozes through everything in his path, without giving a single damn about the odds. Our only job is to be his ultimate backup squad. Deeply moved by her husband's rock-solid faith, Sierra finally exhales and nods. "You are totally right." Meanwhile, Louis steps onto the official testing grounds, his jaw dropping at the ocean of competitors. Is this a battlefield or an exam hall? He gulps, before a terrifying realization hits him. Wait, I am literally the youngest person here. Boom! A godlike pressure crushes the courtyard as a man literally drops from the sky. His voice detonates like a sonic boom. The survival game for the Candria Arcanist Academy officially starts right now. The floating powerhouse commands the space with suffocating authority. I am the absolute law of this academy, and your worst nightmare for this exam. This absolute beast is Aronian Smith, the legendary headmaster himself. The entire plaza erupts into panicked, starstruck whispers. No way, the Grandmaster? Director Aronian is actually here? The applicants gasp in pure terror. Louis quickly mentally reviews the combat mechanics of this insane universe. Between martial warriors and magic casters, everyone is brutally ranked across 6 rigid tiers. A massive, glowing pyramid materializes in his mind, mapping out the ultimate food chain. Bottom tier is the apprentice. Then comes fighter, master, grandmaster, the legendary sage, and sitting proudly at the absolute peak, the mythical saint. Director Aronian casually flexes his grandmaster status, ranking 3rd in the entire world's power hierarchy. Louis swallows hard, suddenly grasping the terrifying, godlike status that title holds in this society. Aronian then smirks and drops the rules for Stage 1, pointing a finger at a massive, intimidating staircase. Your first nightmare is surviving this climb, but the path is blocked by elite senior students acting as raid bosses. He brutally reveals that the qualification tokens are stashed right behind these ruthless upperclassmen. Oh, and by the way, there are only 1,000 tokens up for grabs. Only the ones clutching a token get to step into the next arena. Director Aronian lays down the absolute law. The second that final pass vanishes, this trial is officially over. He thrusts a single finger toward the sky. Tension snaps like a tightrope as his voice booms like thunder. Let the chaos begin. Like a dam breaking open, the massive sea of rookies stampedes toward the towering staircase. Their eyes burn with totally unearned arrogance. The frontline sprints ahead, thinking this test is a complete joke. That top spot is mine, a random extra yells out. But waiting at the absolute peak stands an upperclassman flashing a totally unhinged smirk. Listen up, fresh meat. His voice drips with pure malice. Welcome to the absolute underworld. Boom, he detonates his spiritual pressure. A catastrophic tsunami of crimson and obsidian energy explodes outward, sending pure, weaponized bloodlust crashing over the crowd. Reality literally warps and fractures before their eyes. It feels like the entire sky is caving in on them. An icy, suffocating dread violently grips their lungs. Blood-curdling shrieks echo through the hall. Features contort into masks of absolute agony. Their fragile minds simply shatter under the psychic bombardment, totally incapable of handling the sheer weight of his aura. Dozens of hopefuls drop like lifeless puppets. Thud, thud, thud. The system coldly barks out their badge numbers, instantly crossing them off the survivor list. Absolute hysteria infects the stragglers still clinging to consciousness. Did he just hit us with magic? A terrified voice screeches through the chaos. Another kid points up, trembling violently. Are you crazy? That is Lord Sheed, the finance minister's bloodline and last year's undisputed champion. He is an absolute monster. Yet, right in the dead center of this total meltdown, Louis stands there, frozen like a statue, exuding a chilling, absolute calm. His brain instantly dissects the invisible weight. Just a little burst of murderous aura, right? He mutters. The few rookies barely scraping by snap their necks toward him. Their jaws practically hit the floor, staring at a dude who is not just standing tall, but looks like he is out for a casual Sunday stroll. Without missing a single beat, Louis takes a calm step up the death stairs. 0 physical damage. He breaks it down internally, just flexing his spiritual muscles to weed out the weak. Tapping straight into the downloaded combat logs of his previous existence, he reads the battlefield with dead-eyed precision. If your mental stat is garbage, of course you are going to black out from the vibe check, he figures, throwing a sideways glance at the graveyard of knocked-out students littering the marble. To a veteran soul like him, this psychological warfare is basically a tutorial stage. Suddenly, the same snobby aristocrat from earlier locks onto Louis. Bingo, the rich kid sneers, his face twisting into a toxic smirk. Looks like the trash actually has some backbone. His grin stretches into something seriously wicked. But do not get it twisted, peasant. True geniuses are breathing this same air, he spits out, practically choking on his own ego. And let us be brutally honest, dirt-born nobodies do not belong on this stage. Louis's pupils shrink to dangerous slits. Is that right? A quiet, blazing fury ignites in his chest at the sheer, unfiltered classism. The aristocrat's eyes lock on like a predator stalking helpless prey. But since you managed to drag yourself this far, he whispers, his hostile aura spiking into the red zone. With a feral roar, the elite unchains his own violent bloodlust. A suffocating tidal wave of pure animosity bulldozes straight for our main character. It manifests as a hyper-condensed pillar of crimson rage, locked dead onto Louis. Bow down to your betters. The noble screeches at the top of his lungs. The psychic payload is so ridiculously heavy that the last few survivors clinging to life absolutely wipe out. They slam face first into the stone, shrieking in pure torment and pleading for mercy as the gravity of his aura flattens them like pancakes. Yet, right in the eye of this psychic hurricane, Louis refuses to budge an inch. He stands there, totally iced out, completely yawning at the elite's so-called overwhelming presence. The absolute coldest smirk creeps across Louis's face. Is this seriously the peak of your bloodlust? He drops the ultimate disrespect. Cool party trick for terrifying extras. But against me, flashbacks from his previous timeline crash into his consciousness. Rivers of blood, the primal roar of mythical warlords, and the raw, unedited horror of true warfare he had burned into his very soul. Inside his mindscape, he is literally flanked by the towering shadows of 1,000 fallen gods. Through agonizing, bone-breaking meditation over a lifetime, he had tanked their apocalyptic auras on repeat. He had sparred mentally with world-ending beasts and legends every single day until fear itself forgot his name. Stacked against that kind of trauma, this rich kid's little tantrum is practically a gentle breeze. Totally triggered by the commoner's absolute lack of respect, the aristocrat throws a reckless haymaker dripping in crimson mana, desperate to shatter Louis's skull by brute force. But Louis just flashes a winner's grin. Not even close, he mentally scoffs, unlocking his own internal gates. Boom! Louis detonates like a spiritual supernova. A majestic, blinding sapphire aura erupts from his core, turning his eyes into glowing, electric blue lanterns of pure dominance. His azure energy violently collides with the crimson wave, instantly devouring the noble's attack through nothing but absolute, god-tier willpower. Crushing his fingers into a rock-solid fist, Louis winds up for the payback. "Let me give you elites a little education," he snarls, his tone vibrating with ancient, bottled-up rage. "This is what real death feels like," he bellows, his gaze incinerating the air backed by the concentrated madness of a million ghost battles. Louis launches a single, devastating punch. But instead of breaking bones, he fires off a catastrophic shockwave of untamed bloodlust. An invisible, utterly tyrannical pressure cannonballs forward. The arrogant elite is violently launched off his feet by the sheer gravity of the counterstrike. Absolutely flattened by a spirit tempered through literal death and reincarnation, the surviving audience is paralyzed, their brains short-circuiting at the impossible flex. They cannot compute how the untouchable high-class bully just got effortlessly folded. Meanwhile, the aristocrat's eyes bulge out of his skull in total shock, screaming like a glitching non-player character as he is ragdolled by an energy completely beyond his pay grade. Louis's knuckles break a single millimeter from the guy's nose, but the sonic boom of his absolute authority explodes right against the noble's face. The rich kid violently ricochets off the cold, hard floor, instantly knocked out cold by a literal mental punch. Louis towers over his unconscious body, radiating undisputed main character energy. He drops an absolutely freezing, god-complex glare on the room. It is a dead silent promise to anyone thinking of stepping up next. Yeah, that includes you, Lord Sheed. The room goes dead silent. Cold sweat drips down his face as he witnesses Louis's absolute monster of a power display. The rest of the rookies are completely mind-blown. Wait, 0 mana? How is that even possible? The crowd whispers in pure disbelief. Our boy did not just brush off insane bloodlust. He literally one-shot an elite upperclassman. Isn't this kid barely 13 or 14? Completely brushing off the jaw-dropped audience, Louis stands tall like an absolute boss. Zero hesitation, zero fear. With icy confidence, he strolls right past a paralyzed Lord Sheed. "I will be taking my pass now," he drops coldly, casually walking up to the qualification board. He leaves a totally humiliated veteran and a crowd of frozen newbies in his dust. Smooth as ice, with one perfectly calculated movement, Louis snatches his ticket to the next round, locking in his victory for trial number 1. But a bruised ego is a dangerous thing. Boiling with absolute rage, the disgraced noble violently snaps. "You are dead meat," he roars, completely losing his mind as he launches a cowardly sneak attack straight at Louis's back. Crackling mana erupts from his palm. It is a desperate, dirty move aimed right at restoring his shattered pride. But he picked the wrong target. Louis's past life instincts immediately kick into overdrive. He does not even bother to look back. His legendary battle senses are already screaming at the incoming threat. Swish! With terrifying grace, he violently parries the explosive magic strike using nothing but a flick of his wrist. It is a masterclass in martial arts from a kid barely out of middle school. The noble's brain absolutely short-circuits. "No way! That is impossible!" he shrieks. "How does a filthy commoner swat away my magic like a bug?" Boom! Director Aronian practically teleports into the scene, slamming a heavy hand down on the noble's shoulder. The boy cleared the first stage, he announces with heavy authority. "But he is just a peasant. The noble stutters. Aronian's eyes instantly turn to daggers. The Arcanist Academy of Candria does not care about your bloodline. Here, crowns and dirt are worth the exact same. Monsters do not check your pedigree before they rip you apart. Utterly crushed by the heavy aura, the noble frantically bows. Forgive me, sir. You speak the absolute truth. Louis drops a respectful nod, silently acknowledging the headmaster's massive presence. Aronian then shifts his intense focus right onto our main character, his stone-cold face cracking into a tiny hint of approval. Well played, Louis Carrel, he praises, sealing the victory. But just when things seem chill, Aronian suddenly invades his personal space. His piercing eyes lock onto Louis like a hawk. That hair color of yours, he murmurs under his breath. It is a walking red flag. Talk about a massive cliffhanger. Right then, a terrifying pulse of pure energy surges through Louis's veins. Flash! His hair and eyes violently shift shades for a split second, catching everyone off guard. Trying to play it cool while analyzing the threat level, Louis keeps his guard up. Care to explain what you mean? He asks smoothly. But Aronian, an absolute beast of a grandmaster, closes the gap. He gently lifts the boy's chin, scanning him like a fascinating new puzzle. And then, he drops a bombshell proposal. Make it into the academy, and the headmaster himself will brew up a top-tier concealment elixir. A custom potion designed to mask Louis's dangerously rare features. But our guy? He is way too sharp to fall for sweet talk. His mind races. What is this old fox really plotting? Whatever it is, surviving the upcoming exams comes first. He locks in mentally for round 2. As the Grandmaster escorts him out, a shadowy figure with glinting glasses stalks them from the sidelines. His face is totally twisted in toxic disgust. The tension spikes as we see the raw jealousy absolutely torching this guy's eyes, as he glares daggers at Louis's back. This stuck-up noble examiner is practically foaming at the mouth over the director stepping in to save some random peasant. Grinding his teeth to dust, he carves the name Louis Carrel right into his hit list. We cut straight to the second proving grounds of the brutal Arcanist Academy of Candria. The speakers blare a massive warning. Stage 2 is about to drop, and everyone better brace themselves. Get this, out of 20,000 hopefuls, a brutal slaughter left only 1,000 standing. And surprise, surprise, most of them are trust fund nobles, rigged with god-tier tutoring and legendary gear. The commoner count is basically 0, painting a massive glowing target right on Louis's back. Cue the local bullies. A squad of snobby rich kids rolls up, fronted by a brown-haired punk rocking a purple tie and a dangerously inflated ego. The ringleader shoots him a garbage look. Do not expect Daddy Aronian to save you this time, peasant. Louis just stares back, completely unbothered on the outside, but holding pure lethal intent in his gaze. The leader's lapdog immediately barks up, spitting venom. Facts. Without the headmaster holding your hand, you would have been kicked to the curb ages ago. A razor-thin smirk creeps onto Louis's face. He drops a vocal nuke with absolute chill. Wow, you are actually brain dead, aren't you? The spoiled brat glitches out, absolutely wrecked by the sheer disrespect. Say that to my face? He screams, losing his cool. But Louis just doubles down, dripping with unmatched boss energy. The Grandmaster has an eye for actual talent, something you clearly lack. Blinded by rage, the noble cranks back a glowing fist. You asked for it. I am going to bury you, he violently threatens. Our main character doesn't even blink. Instead, a devilish grin flashes across his face. He was baiting this exact reaction. The noble's vision goes entirely red, from being clowned by a lower class. Snapping his last thread of sanity, he launches a devastating haymaker aimed right at Louis's skull. Die! Trash! He violently roars. Time practically slows down. Louis's eyes flare with an absolute freezing calm as he tracks the pathetic strike. Boom! Moving faster than the eye can track, Louis effortlessly halts the crushing blow using exactly 2 fingers. A fierce shockwave rips from the point of impact. But this is 0% magic. It is a legendary, forgotten martial art technique that completely scrambles his enemy's internal energy flow. The arrogant noble instantly freezes like a statue. Panic warps his face as he chokes out. I can't even feel my own body. In a single heartbeat, Louis's technique absolutely shatters his opponent's momentum. With ice-cold composure, our main character drops the name of his devastating move, Meridian Rupture, followed up by a flawless spiral point strike. The sheer kinetic energy doesn't just cancel out the attack, it launches the spoiled aristocrat backward like a human cannonball. His lackey's jaws hit the floor. They shriek his name in pure, unfiltered terror. Bam! He craters into the dirt, kicking up a massive dust cloud. The entire courtyard instantly drops into a heavy, suffocating silence. The rest of his squad is absolutely paralyzed. Their brains are completely short-circuiting after watching their so-called leader get brutally one-shot. Snapping out of it, one crony sprints over. He slides to his knees, frantically shaking his boss and begging to know if he is still breathing. Twitching in absolute agony, the noble realizes something horrifying. His arm is completely dead weight. He desperately tries to flex his fingers, but the limb is locked up tight. Choking on his own bruised ego, he points a shaking finger at Louis. "You used poison! You dirty rat!" he screeches. "I am getting you disqualified right now." But Louis just takes a slow, menacing step forward, completely unfazed by the temper tantrum. "That was not poison," he states. "That was raw martial arts." Staring holes through the coward's soul, Louis reveals he was actually pulling his punches, all because of a sacred promise to his mother. But his patience has a breaking point. And then, our boy drops the coldest line of the chapter. Only those willing to bleed have the right to throw the first punch. The air practically crackles with killing intent. But right before things go nuclear, a flash of blonde hair interrupts the showdown. It is Lord Kane. He snatches Louis by the wrist, stepping right into the danger zone. We are in the middle of a literal exam right now. Kane's eyes are dead serious. He asks if Louis is really willing to throw his future away, over some trash talk. Louis goes quiet. The battle aura fades as he lowers his fist, sizing up this blonde pretty boy who just crashed the party. But the paralyzed loser on the ground still hasn't learned his lesson. He barks at Kane to mind his own business, spitting out another pathetic threat. "You filthy commoner. You are a dead man." Lord Kane slowly pivots, his aura suddenly shifting from friendly to absolute zero. "You do know exactly who I am, right?" he warns, his voice dripping with authority. "Back off, before I make you." The entire gang of bullies physically flinches. Kane's sheer presence is too oppressive to handle. Grinding his teeth so hard they might crack, the defeated leader barks at his squad to fall back. Sulking away like beaten dogs, the guy shoots one last venomous glare over his shoulder. The resentment is practically radiating off his skin. Boiling with pure toxicity, he hisses under his breath. "Commoners, high-ranking nobles, you are all garbage. You will pay for this." The ultimate coping mechanism for a shattered ego. Louis watches them scurry off, mentally taking notes. To him, these aristocrats are all cut from the same cloth, just power-tripping snobs hiding behind a title. Once the air clears, Lord Kane casually strolls up. "You are Louis, right?" he asks, clearly impressed. "You pack a serious punch, man." Flashing a blindingly charismatic smile, Kane holds out his hand and drops a massive curveball. "How about you and I team up for this?" That single sentence acts like a shockwave. Every single applicant in a 10-mile radius snaps their neck toward them. A mob of girls instantly starts squealing, desperately trying to catch his eye. Within seconds, a massive tidal wave of clout chasers totally swarms Kane, begging for a spot on his roster. They are literally screaming out their family pedigrees, flexing their bloodlines just for a crumb of his attention. Standing off to the side, Louis just watches the circus act, completely unbothered. The gossip mill starts spinning out of control. "That is the heir to the legendary Aranka family," people whisper. Everyone knows that holding onto Kane's coattails is basically a fast-pass ticket to the next phase of the exam. The desperation is honestly pathetic. Louis stares at the chaotic mob with zero interest, letting out a dry scoff at all the tryhards. But suddenly, defying the laws of gravity high above the Colosseum, director Aronian Smith decides playtime is officially over. A blinding, hyper-complex magic circle violently ignites dead center in the sky. Hovering like a literal god, his booming voice vibrates through their very bones. Massive respect for surviving the trial of will. Flashing a dangerously cryptic smile, Aronian drops the hammer. "Welcome to your worst nightmare, the trial of power." In a split second, an eerie, glowing brand manifests directly onto the chests of every single applicant. Panic erupts instantly. "What the heck is glowing on me?" a random guy screams. Kane, proving his top-tier battle IQ, recognizes the rune immediately. "Wait, is this an earth magic seal?" he mutters, his cool facade finally cracking. The color drains from his face as the horrific reality of the spell sets in. Boom! Before anyone can blink, gravity multiplies tenfold. It feels like a mountain was just dropped onto their shoulders. One by one, the applicants faceplant into the dirt, totally crushed by the insane, invisible weight. A colossal, insanely detailed, Earth attribute spell matrix expands across the entire battlefield. The pressure is suffocating. The ground glows with an ominous, heavy light, trapping everyone inside a literal gravity chamber. The director floats there, casually laying down the brutal rules for round 2. "You will fight for your lives right here, while this gravity magic crushes your bones." The exact same arrogant snobs who tried to jump Louis are now eating dirt on their hands and knees, shaking like leaves. Their minds are blown by the godlike aura of a true Grand Master. How are we even supposed to breathe, let alone throw a punch in this? Absolute madness takes over. But right in the middle of the panic, someone screams out. Someone points a trembling finger. "Yo, are you seeing this? That dude is literally strolling through this like it is a walk in the park." It is Lord Kane. While this bone-crushing gravity glues everyone else to the floor, he manages to stay on his feet, just barely. He stands like a lone survivor in a sea of defeated examinees. Sweat pours down the face of Kane. His jaw practically hits the floor as he locks his eyes on an unbelievable sight. He completely doubts his own vision. Right in front of him, Louis isn't just surviving the pressure. The guy is taking casual, rhythmic steps toward the front. Boom, boom. Every single footstep shatters the solid stone floor beneath him. The absolute craziest part? The gravity field is zeroed in completely on him. High up in the VIP seats, the director watches with hawk-like focus. Louis easily scales the stage steps without breaking a single drop of sweat. The candidates eating dirt can only gasp in pure shock. No way. That is physically impossible. How did someone actually make it to the platform? A sinister, fascinated smirk creeps onto the face of director Aronian. Looks like you took first place once again, kid, he muses to himself. The fallen students finally connect the dots. Wait, that is the exact same monster who cleared the first phase. Their brains short-circuit, trying to figure out his insane durability. The mind of Kane races in complete denial. I am barely surviving this. I spent 3 grueling years training at the Grandmaster tier, yet my knees are buckling. The booming voice of Aronian suddenly cuts through the heavy atmosphere. Listen up. Only the ones still standing on their own 2 feet get a ticket to the next round. The crushed losers left on the ground just stare at Louis, completely mind-blown by his absurd power level. With a dramatic flick of his wrist, Director Aronian Smith summons a glowing orb of pure energy. Time to unveil the next nightmare. Flash! An entire armory materializes out of nowhere, right in front of the standing survivors. If you need some steel for this phase, pick your poison, the director echoes. Dozens of premium weapons float gracefully in midair, waiting to be claimed by the remaining fighters. Razor-sharp blades, heavy bows, and lethal spears hover before them. Without a second of hesitation, Louis reaches out. His bandaged fingers wrap tightly around a sleek longsword. He picks his blade with the swagger of a seasoned veteran. Swish, swish. He casually executes a few deadly test swings to get a feel for the balance. His muscle memory is terrifyingly perfect. While everyone else is practically shaking in their boots, Louis looks as relaxed as a guy waiting for the bus. He is entirely ready for whatever fresh hell the Academy throws next. The director then drops a massive bombshell. Grab whatever gear you want, but step even 1 inch off this stage, and you are instantly disqualified. Meanwhile, the other hopefuls are struggling to even lift their weapons. Under the soul-crushing gravity field, looking down from his throne-like balcony, Aronian Smith grins. Are you locked in? And just like that, he drops the hammer. Let the second trial begin. Snap. A sharp snap of his fingers echoes across the arena, triggering the real madness. Unleash the bound slimes. The students frantically scan the empty arena. Crickets. Wait, where are they? Did they glitch out? One guy stammers. Totally lost. Panic starts spreading like wildfire. What in the world is a bound slime? A student whispers. Bro, do I look like an encyclopedia to you? His friend snaps back. The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife. Louis just listens quietly. But then, his hyper-enhanced senses catch a tiny shift in the air pressure. His eyes dart straight to the roof. Incoming from above, he realizes. High up on the Colosseum ceiling, a swarm of glowing blue orbs starts glitching into reality. Finally, someone else notices. Yo, heads up, something is dropping. Suddenly, one of the glowing orbs dive bombs toward the floor. Splat! It slams into the arena tiles, transforming into a jiggling mass of blue jelly. No way, it is actually just a slime. It looks incredibly basic, and honestly kind of adorable. A collective sigh of relief washes over the crowd. Slimes? These little blobs are the so-called bound slimes? As the jelly monsters start bouncing around, the examiner finally drops the mechanics of this survival game. Block a hit, and you secure 1 point. Dodge an attack, that is 2 points. Completely obliterate a slime, and you bag a massive 5 points. Aronian Smith then delivers the absolute gut punch of reality. We rank you by your total score. Only the top 100 players will survive to see the third phase. Louis processes the math in a split second. This selection is absolutely ruthless. Out of the 1,000 sweaty tryhards standing in this room, a brutal 90% are getting sent packing. Just 100 slots, he mutters, his eyes turning cold. Down below, the slimes look like completely harmless pets, jiggling around and making cute squeaking noises. It is the perfect trap. The tension shatters as a cocky candidate bursts out laughing. Are you kidding me? These things look brain dead. Slimes are literally tutorial tier trash mobs. This is a free win. Another guy, dripping with unearned confidence, readies his heavy blade. Facts. They are basically moving targets, he smirks, already tasting those sweet, sweet 5 points. He launches himself at the closest blue blob like an absolute maniac. Eat steel, you overgrown jello, he roars, bringing his sword down for the kill. But he deeply miscalculated. The cute face of the slime suddenly twists into pure demonic rage. It completely vanishes from his line of sight with terrifying speed. The exact millisecond it dodges, the creature retaliates. It compresses its gooey body and launches itself like a high-speed blue cannonball, right at the screaming student. His arrogant smirk instantly morphs into pure, unadulterated terror. He never expected a low-tier mob to move like an assassin. Wham! The blue blur connects directly with his face, delivering a bone-rattling impact. It instantly shatters the illusion that these things are just harmless little blobs. A nearby kid freezes in absolute horror as the slime ricochets past his ear, leaving his buddy knocked out cold on the floor. The overconfident fool who tried to farm easy points is sent completely flying across the arena like a broken rag doll. Boom! Students get knocked out cold instantly. The sheer, brutal force of these falling slimes catches the entire arena completely off guard. One archer just stands there, totally paralyzed. His brain literally short-circuits as pure chaos erupts all around him. "Watch your heads! They are still dropping!" Another student shrieks in absolute terror. Blind panic instantly infects the entire battlefield. It is a literal meteor shower of monsters. The slimes smash into the dirt and instantly lock onto the examinees, turning this trial into a desperate fight for survival. High up in the VIP balcony, Director Aronian and the proctors watch the absolute bloodbath unfold below. Bodies are literally flying through the air. Examinees are getting swatted like flies, dropping one by one. The proctors coldly call out the scores in real time. Their monotone voices just prove how insanely ruthless this academy trial really is. Number 27, 9, 3, 1 point. Number 17, 6, 38, 2 points. A female proctor shoots a dead serious look over to the director. "Sir, we have heavy hitters this year. The heirs from the Avius, Aranka, and Duran bloodlines are all present." She hints that all previous academy records are about to be absolutely shattered. Down in the dirt, Dorkin and a fiery-haired girl are putting on a masterclass. They weave and strike with insane, water-like fluidity. "We have got a stacked roster of prodigies this time around." Another examiner chimes in, pointing at the carnage. "And do not sleep on the commoners," he adds with a smirk. "That kid you bailed out earlier? No, noble blood in him, right?" Director Aronian narrows his eyes, locking onto Louis with intense curiosity. "That kid is a massive wild card," he murmurs. "I have a feeling he is going to put on a legendary show." But another proctor totally bursts his bubble. "Maybe, but right now, the kid is literally frozen like a statue." Cut back to the war zone. Louis has not moved a single muscle. He just stands there, radiating heavy main character energy, completely unbothered by the absolute mayhem around him. The other rookies finally spot him. "Bro, what on earth is he doing?" one of them yells. His teammate just rolls his eyes, scoffing hard. He is totally lagging. The slimes are way out of his league. Glaring at Louis with pure disgust, they start trash-talking. Trash will always be trash. He is going to get wiped out in 5 seconds. But Louis, he just keeps his head down. His mind is razor-sharp, calculating every single variable. Sensing an easy meal, a slime locks onto his blind spot. It launches itself from the sky like a heat-seeking missile, free-falling at terminal velocity directly toward his skull. Right before impact, bam! The camera pans to Louis' dead calm eyes, and the terrifying, icy glint of his blade, catching the light. Talk about an insane cliffhanger. But the Candria Academy entrance exam stops for nobody. Across the field, Loki Dale is charging up. His face drops dead serious. A massive wave of crackling blue aura explodes from his body. He is about to show everyone why he is built different. The arena is an absolute madhouse right now. While some random extra desperately hacks at a monster, Louis is just observing from the backlines. He is downloading their entire attack patterns with zero panic. And then he moves. Louis' godly footwork literally leaves the haters clutching their pearls. That archer and his buddy are completely jaw-dropped. "No way. That hit was totally guaranteed," one of them stammers out. They massively miscalculated the main character. Louis does not just dodge, he claps back. He fires off a concentrated blast of pure kinetic energy. The beam rips through the air faster than the eye can track. Bullseye. The strike perfectly snipes another competitor right out of the bracket. Boom. Just to prove he is not just a dodge tank, he packs lethal firepower too. Amidst all this flashy destruction, Louis' face remains absolutely stone cold. His piercing eyes are literally reading the future, predicting every single twitch his enemies make. But wait, he is not the only boss-level threat on the field. Someone else just unleashed an absolute bullet hell of aura, flooding the entire zone with a devastating barrage of fiery projectiles. Enter Kane, a smug, high-class noble, with a punchable smirk on his face. He is dead set that his overpowered carpet bombing is going to wipe Louis off the map. Kane glares, waiting for the dust to settle. But facing a literal storm of destruction, Louis does not even flinch. He taps into his absolute peak focus state. Zoom in on those eyes. There is zero fear in there, just the cold, terrifying math of a genius breaking down the matrix. Suddenly, we flash back to a freezing, snow-blind wilderness. This is the secret behind Louis' insane reflexes. Deep in the heart of a frozen peak, he is staring down 3 training partners. They are nervously sweating, holding literal boulders. They are terrified of catching him lacking and accidentally caving his skull in. But Louis just stands his ground, built like an absolute tank. He flashes them a fearless grin. "Let it rip, guys. I have got a new theory I need to road test," he promises them. Hyped up, his crew finally caves. "You better not die on us," they scream, winding up their pitches. Incoming, a devastating hail of heavy rocks gets launched right at his face. Death is literally inches away, but in that exact microsecond, Louis flips the switch. His eyes glow with an insane, otherworldly aura. The world shifts into slow motion as his brain hacks the physical realm. He taps into his past life knowledge, back when he was a god-tier martial arts theorist. It is a forbidden concept that could completely break the combat system. He has trained his nervous system to bypass normal limits, beaming data straight from the parietal lobe to the cerebellum. This cheat code lets him map out every attack vector and dodge with zero input lag. The theory was flawless. Unlock max cerebral overdrive and become utterly untouchable. No attack could touch him now. Trapped in a crushing avalanche of boulders, Luz was about to prove his insane theory right. This was the ultimate trial for his signature move, Void Combat Calculation. Phase 1, Data Collection. His mind locked onto every single hazard, downloading the exact trajectory, velocity, and impact angle of the falling debris. Phase 2, Compute. His eyes flared with blinding energy as his brain overclocked, mapping out the one perfect survival route through the chaos. Phase 3, Execution. Moving like a phantom, Luz danced straight into the avalanche, weaving through the massive boulders with zero wasted movement and emerging completely untouched. His squad literally froze. Their jaws dropped to the floor as they stared at this impossible god-tier evasion. Breathing just a little heavy, Luz casually swiped the sweat from his forehead, flashing a completely ice-cold smirk. His lifelong obsession was officially a masterpiece. Right there in the memory, Luz dropped the name of his broken new skill to his speechless crew. "I call it Void Combat Calculation," he announced, even though the others just blinked at him like he was speaking an alien language. Flashing a mysterious grin, he explained how this move literally guaranteed a win. Boom. The memory shattered, ripping us right back to the brutal exam arena. Luz stood his ground against a massive wave of mutated slimes rushing him, finally ready to unleash this insane power in a real fight. It was the ultimate foresight. Power surged through his glowing eyes as the calculation triggered, locking onto his targets. His vision instantly shifted, glowing tactical geometry painted over the battlefield, completely replacing the monsters in front of him. Now, all he saw were raw vectors, speed limits, and impact zones. The monster horde lunged forward for the kill, but to his hyper-overclocked brain, it was basically slow motion. Their strikes were as easy to read as a basic math quiz from a bird's-eye view. The enemy formation was instantly exposed, a lethal, 4-way synchronized ambush. Yet to Luz, this was just another data point to process. He dissected the death trap with absolute zero panic. Sure, these beasts packed insane momentum, but they were locked into completely linear dashes. He had already found their fatal flaw. Crunching the exact ricochet angles in milliseconds, he mapped out their entire assault. Without breaking a sweat, Luz merely shifted his weight a single step to the right. He completely ghosted the vanguard charge. The entire monster wave struck dead air, completely unable to course-correct their reckless momentum. Thanks to his future sight, weaving through them was like a walk in the park. His brain racked up the score. 4 flawless dodges equaled 8 easy points. But just playing defense was not his style. Luz locked his grip onto his blade, explosive aura flooding into the steel. Playtime was officially over. It was payback time. Roaring out, he unleashed a devastating arc of concentrated aura. My turn. Igniting his signature art, sword-severing cut. A scorching wave of pure destruction ripped through the arena, completely vaporizing the remaining monsters in one brutal flash. But this god-tier flex did not stay a secret. Watching from the shadows, the elite noble prodigy Kane was absolutely paralyzed by what just went down. Up in the VIP box, the veteran proctors were losing their minds. Did that kid just download the monster's attack patterns? One gasped out loud. His battle IQ is terrifying, another muttered in pure shock. Down below, Kane narrowed his eyes. The noble finally realized this guy was not some random background extra, but an absolute monster in the making. A dangerous, arrogant smirk slowly crept across the face of Kane. It was the predatory grin of a true combat genius. "Oh, I get it now," he thought to himself, his plan locking into place. "I absolutely need to make him my pawn." Just then, Luz felt a lethal chill run down his spine. He whipped around. An ambush! Right as he raised his blade to farm another monster for points. Shing! A rogue blade brutally impaled the beast dead in its tracks, snatching the hard-earned loot right out from under him. The weapon belonged to Kane, dropping in from the high ground, and effortlessly turning the target into a pincushion. Luz snapped his head toward the intruder, furious sparks flying in his eyes. "Hey," he growled with absolute zero chill, locking onto him with killer intent. "You just sniped my target." But Kane? The guy did not even flinch. Radiating pure aristocratic arrogance, he clapped back instantly. "Well, I cannot steal something that never belonged to you in the first place." Sparks flew. The rivalry was officially ignited. Backing up his trash talk, the noble blitzed straight into the chaos, gliding through the battlefield with the insane grace of a master swordsman. In one flawless, lightning-fast swipe, he cleaved another beast cleanly in two, hijacking massive points right before the other rookies could even blink. Over in the corner, a squad of sweaty, desperate trainees were pathetically failing to take down a single, basic mob. The power difference was just embarrassing. Kane smoothly turned his back on the carnage, pointing his blade at the struggling newbies. "We fleece the weaklings, not each other," he declared. His entire strategy? Absolute dominance over the weak. Flashing a smile that was equal parts charismatic and wildly toxic, the noble bowed slightly. "The name is Kane. How about we hijack this entire exam together?" The heavy offer of a villainous team-up hung in the tense air. Luz narrowed his eyes, analyzing this dangerous new variable with deadly focus. Catching the wary glint in the noble swordsman's eyes, Kane decides to clear the air. "Look, let us get one thing straight. I am just here for the top ranks." He drops the truth bomb. But why stop there? A sly, dangerous smirk creeps across his face. "And since we are already crossing paths, let us make this a bloodless war for points." Kane's eyes ignite with pure, unadulterated defiance. "Do not hold back. Show me your absolute limit." His real agenda? Dragging out Luz's hidden, monstrous potential. Luz simply smirks back, radiating an intoxicating mix of pure confidence and absolute arrogance. The sheer audacity of this guy is hilarious to him. "You have got some serious nerve," he chuckles darkly. "All right then, you are on, if you are begging for a reality check." Luz's knuckles turn white around his hilt as his aura flares. The ultimate rivalry has officially sparked to life. Two absolute prodigies, ready to dominate the battlefield. But Luz throws a massive curveball. "I will unleash my full arsenal," he declares, as they lock into a badass back-to-back stance. But the loser becomes the winner's absolute servant. Kane blinks, completely caught off guard. Nobody in his entire life had ever possessed the guts to counter him like this. But lurking in the shadows, vipers are watching. A hidden sniper grinds his teeth in pure, seething rage, witnessing his two primary bounties buddying up in plain sight. The archer immediately signals his hit squad. Lord Shift's kill orders were absolute, and this unexpected super team just threw a massive wrench in their plans. Still, amidst the battlefield's absolute mayhem, this was a golden ticket to wipe them both from existence in one swift stroke. A blind spot ambush was practically begging to happen. The squad captain, flexing demonic crimson eyes, flashes a blood-curdling grin. "Oh yeah, it is hunting season." Out of nowhere, Lethal Mana rips through the arena's atmosphere, launching a massive sneak offensive on the newfound duo. Waste them. The hit squad pulls back their bowstrings, locking onto their prey. A spell-infused bolt screams directly toward Kane's blind side, but Luz's god-tier reflexes kick in, violently tackling Kane out of the kill zone. Luz's gaze narrows into absolute predator mode, instantly booting up his combat calculation system. Threat trajectories perfectly map out in his mind. Then, doing the unthinkable, Luz deliberately steps into the crosshairs, throwing his own flesh in front of the lethal strike. The snipers show zero mercy, unleashing a torrential rain of steel, aiming to turn them into human pincushions. Boom! A massive shockwave of crimson mana detonates right on impact. It looks like a guaranteed one-hit knockout. Kane's blood runs ice cold as he watches Luz eat the blast point blank. The sheer kinetic force is utterly terrifying. The sniper howls in twisted victory, hyping up his squad, absolutely certain he just bagged a high-tier double kill. But as the dust settles, a chilling smirk cuts right through the fog. Luz does not have a single scratch on him. The sniper's triumphant grin morphs into a mask of pure, unadulterated horror. No way. His brain short-circuits trying to process the impossible. The clearing smoke exposes an insane reality. Luz did not just tank the hit. He snatched both lethal bolts right out of thin air, crushing them casually between two fingers. Pure panic infects the ambushers. "He caught that bare-handed?" the captain shrieks. What kind of monstrous reaction speed is that? Their flawless assassination playbook just got completely shredded. Kane sprints over, his heart hammering. "Did you take any damage?" Absolute cowards, striking from the shadows. But Luz, cool as absolute ice, simply drops the shattered shafts into the dirt and brushes it off casually, barely a breeze. Triggered by the immense disrespect, the sniper draws his bowstrings agonizingly tight. "Who are you calling trash?" he bellows. The crosshairs snap straight back to Kane. The sniper channels everything into his ultimate art, the twin arrow strike. Vile, toxic purple mana suffocates the shafts, while his eyes blaze with a demonic red fury. Two massive spikes of pure destruction, one dripping with forbidden shadow arts, break the sound barrier as they rocket toward our duo. But Kane just flashes a cocky, fearless grin. He steps into the danger zone, whipping his rapier in a flawless arc, dicing the physical projectiles like hot butter. "Is this your peak?" he mocks, treating the deadly barrage like a pathetic warm-up routine. But the shadow-cursed bolt plays by entirely different rules. It ghosts right past his blade, completely ignoring his defense. The doom projectile is centimeters away. Fractions of a second before a fatal piercing, Kane's cocky smirk vaporizes. Pure dread spikes through his veins as literal death stares him in the face. Splat! A vicious spray of crimson paints the air. Blood drips from Kane's bare palm as he intercepts the cursed bolt, screaming for Luce to freeze. Time halts as Luce connects the terrifying dots. The shadow arrow was hunting him the entire time. Meanwhile, perched high above the chaos, two elite proctors monitor the slaughter. The bespectacled observer pushes up his frames. "That is not an exam tactic. That is straight-up attempted murder," he notes, demanding an immediate disqualification for the squad. But the head proctor, a towering blonde powerhouse radiating absolute authority, barely bats an eye. "Let it play out," he commands coldly, fully aware those ambushers are already digging their own graves. He simply orders the medical crew to prep healing items for the brutal aftermath. Down in the dirt, Luce shakes off the massive adrenaline spike, locking eyes with his bleeding savior. The puzzle pieces finally click. "Wait, you are Kane, aren't you?" Flashing a wild, bloodthirsty grin, Kane hefts his blade over his shoulder like a major league slugger. "Hey scumbags, you ever watch baseball?" Leaving the fantasy world snipers utterly bewildered by the alien slang. But actions speak louder than words. Kane steps up to the plate, swinging his sword with explosive torque, smashing two incoming energy blasts right back at them for a literal home run. Suddenly, blazing holographic equations manifest around his body, booting up his ultimate trump card, void combat calculation. Every single micro-movement, every breath of his enemies, is instantly decrypted and doomed. Kane grinds his teeth as pure aura ignites in his eyes. He channels every ounce of his power, charging up his next devastating strike. A creepy, grinning phantom forged from crackling blue energy manifests right along his glowing blade. The beast is starving for destruction. With a massive swing, Kane unleashes the beast. The energy blast tears across the Colosseum floor. Faster than the eye can track, the three arrogant noble archers absolutely freeze. Their smug faces drain of color as the catastrophic attack closes the distance before they can even blink. Boom! The blast detonates right in the leader's face. The sheer kinetic force completely caves in his arrogant smirk. Launched like a ragdoll, the high and mighty archer gets sent flying through the air. He slams into the dirt, completely knocked out cold by Kane's monstrous strength. With a massive burn mark scorched into his chest, the system coldly announces his defeat. Number 4, 38, disqualified. Kane touches down without a sound, flashing a wild smirk. That is one down. Watching from the sidelines, Louis is left entirely speechless. He realizes this little rivalry between nobles and commoners just got a whole lot more entertaining. Seeing their leader get utterly trashed, the two surviving archers lose their minds. "Brother, you filthy peasant," they scream out in blazing rage, completely unable to swallow this massive blow to their ego. But suddenly, panic sets in. Wait, where did he go? Kane has completely erased his presence, vanishing into thin air like a literal ghost. Even Louis frantically scans the battlefield, trying to track the commoner's insane speed. Then, his eyes shoot upward. "Right above you!" Kane's voice echoes from the sky like the Grim Reaper. Free-falling toward his prey, he readies a ruthless downward slash. Bam! Kane obliterates the second archer in a single strike, wiping him out before the final goon can even process the bloodbath. Number 2. Kane calls out with zero hesitation. Riding that momentum, another wild surge of crackling blue energy explodes right into the second guy's skull. A pathetic scream rips from his throat as he gets violently launched across the arena. He eats the dirt just as pathetically as his boss did. The stadium announcer immediately chimes in. The second attacker, number 01439, is disqualified. The very last archer is completely frozen in terror, his brain short-circuiting at this total massacre. Emanating the aura of an apex predator, Kane materializes right behind him. "You are the last one standing," he whispers like ice, completely cornered and shaking in his boots. The pathetic noble tries to play the status card. He barks that if a lowly peasant pushes too far, the elite upperclassman will make him pay. Kane does not give a single damn. He brutally crushes the guy's foot under his boot. Oops. The final noble crumples to the floor in absolute agony. Watching this flawless sweep from afar, Louis smirks and throws a sarcastic warning. to try and go a little easier on them next time. With the trash finally taken out, the blonde noble strolls over to express his gratitude. His eyes drop to his new ally, genuinely checking if his bleeding hand needs medical attention. Kane just laughs off the battle scars, tossing back that Louis is shockingly chill for a snobby elite. Chuckling at the sheer disrespect, Louis carefully tends to the swordsman's wrapped wounds. "And you are fiercely loyal for a peasant," he shoots back. A completely unexpected bromance sparks right there on the battlefield. But then, Louis drops a massive bombshell about his identity. He tells Kane to stop lumping him in with those low-tier aristocrats. "Have you ever heard of the great families? Because my bloodline belongs to the absolute apex. The legendary Aranka clan. These great families are not just rich snobs, they are ancient, godlike dynasties that have birthed literal grandmasters and sages since the dawn of time. Standing like mythical titans in the shadows of history, their monstrous influence secretly controls the entire world. They are the hidden hands pulling the strings of fate and fortune. The sheer authority of these bloodlines rivals the absolute power of the royal family, easily crushing standard nobles, and making even the Arcanist Association sweat." Standing shoulder to shoulder in the dirt, Kane processes this insane flex. "Great families, huh?" A smirk plays on his lips. Turns out, not every blue blood is a complete waste of space, but Kane's absolute dominance has triggered every silver spoon in the Colosseum. Seeing a dirt-poor commoner show them up and team up with a high-tier royal makes their blood boil. A massive mob of furious elites, salty over the archers getting wrecked, marches straight toward them. They roar that this peasant and traitor duo will not score a single point more. The battlefield tension instantly hits a boiling point. Kane and Louis quickly shift into combat stances, standing back-to-back against the horde. Explosive auras detonate from both their bodies. They are totally ready to take on the whole world. The spark ignites a massive, all-out war. One furious snob violently roars that trash-tier commoners need to be erased. The elitist mob stampedes directly at our duo, but surprisingly, backup arrives. A couple of random fighters spot the incoming ambush. They realize Lord Louis is in the crosshairs and refuse to just stand by. "We have to cover him," they scream out, drawing their weapons. These unexpected reinforcements, a mix of commoners and rogue underdogs, crash right into the enemy front line. "Let us crush these arrogant snobs," they roar. In seconds, a basic entrance exam mutates into a savage, all-out class war. The Colosseum devolves into absolute anarchy. Steel violently sings against steel as bodies get tossed left and right. Louis shouts for Kane to keep his head on a swivel, promising himself he will never be dead weight again. But as the battlefield turns into a massive meat grinder, amidst the brutal chaos, two mysterious figures step from the shadows. A gorgeous, red-haired knight, heavily clad in armor, locks eyes on the bloodshed, flashing a dangerously sharp smile. "Now this is where the real fun begins," she smirks. The fierce warrior, Milana, locks eyes with her duo, a pint-sized mage with vibrant blue hair. "Milana, let's make these stuck-up nobles regret the day they ever looked down on you," he roars, his voice full of fire. Without missing a single beat, the duo launches back into the chaos, absolutely dripping with determination. Meanwhile, Kane is gliding across the battlefield like an absolute ghost. He effortlessly weaves through incoming enemy strikes with perfect, fluid evasion. But his insane mobility comes with a heavy price. He is drawing way too much aggro. Kane quickly realizes that farming more points is just painting a massive target on his back. And just when the situation couldn't get any more toxic, a mob of squishy slimes literally spawns out of nowhere, completely interrupting Kane right in the middle of a jump. Seeing the sudden chaos, the blue-haired mage instantly pops his skill. He sweeps his wooden staff low, flawlessly tripping an arrogant noble who was rushing blindly toward him. Milana instantly capitalizes on the massive opening. With a devastating, wide arc slash, her heavy blade perfectly connects, sending the enemy soaring through the sky. But across the arena, a completely different beast enters the chat. Enter the Suragan, a mountain of a man with blazing red hair, gripping a ridiculously oversized hammer, ready to flatten his enemies with pure, unadulterated strength. A booming, maniacal laugh erupts from his massive chest. He is absolutely living for this chaotic bloodbath. "Haha, now this is epic. This is exactly what I came for," he bellows, totally hyped by the utter destruction unfolding around him. With a feral roar, Fei-Yuren drops a massive truth bomb. Crushing human skulls is way more entertaining than popping weak slimes. Without warning, he launches forward, spinning his massive frame at terrifying speeds. He literally transforms into a living tornado of pure devastation, his colossal hammer shredding through the battlefield like wet paper. His eyes glow with absolute madness. Channeling every single ounce of his monstrous physical power, Fei-Yuren unleashes a god-tier spinning strike. The brutal shockwave hits multiple targets simultaneously. Bodies are literally launched into the stratosphere, accompanied by a heavy chorus of panicked, agonizing screams. Coming to a screeching halt, The red-haired menace admires his masterpiece. The cratered earth is completely littered with broken students. They can only groan in absolute agony, physically paralyzed by his heavy-hitting blows. High above the carnage, the elite academy supervisors are sweating bullets as they watch the brutal slaughter unfold. One of the nervous staff turns to the director, begging to know if they should hit the emergency stop on this absolute battle royale. But the director just chills, completely unbothered by the violence. "Let them be," he casually replies. "That fiery, youthful energy is exactly what we need." A panicked supervisor instantly fires back. "Sir, if every single noble gets wiped out by these commoners, won't the academy face massive political backlash?" Unshaken, the director drops the absolute coldest response. The academy bows to no one's rules but its own, and public opinion means absolutely nothing to him. The terrified subordinate quickly nods, finally grasping the true alpha energy of his boss. Suddenly, a blinding, cinematic pillar of holy gold light nukes the sky. It crashes directly into the center of the arena with an earth-shattering boom, instantly freezing the massive brawl in its tracks, levitating majestically within the divine glow. The director slowly raises both arms and drops the final verdict. "Listen up. The second phase of the exam is officially over." Flashing a mysterious smirk, he announces to the surviving, breathless candidates that the final scoreboards and passing ranks are about to drop at any second. The absolute war zone finally quiets down. Exhausted students are practically glued to the floor, their mana cores and physical stamina completely drained. One guy mutters that the heavy gravity magic has finally lifted, while another loudly whines about his energy being entirely in the red zone. Medical staff quickly order the bruised and battered examinees to chug the premium HP potions stacked nearby. Several conscious students desperately scramble to revive their completely knocked out teammates. Kane holds a glowing red vial in his palm, staring intensely. He is completely mesmerized by the potent magical aura swirling inside the glass flask. "Man, the academy's budget must be insane for these," he whispers in pure awe. But his peace is abruptly interrupted when Lewis slides up with the smuggest grin imaginable. "What's got you so stressed, buddy?" Flexing his absolute superiority complex, Louis tells Kane to chill out, joking that he will spare the poor guy even when he claims the crown. Kane just rolls his eyes at the massive ego. Suddenly, the director snaps his fingers. A colossal, glowing holographic scroll materializes in the sky to reveal the final surviving ranks. As the magical parchment slowly rolls down, Louis casually asks Kane what garbage rank he expects, completely confident they both easily cleared the stage. Down below, the beaten-up nobles are heavily coping. They violently mock the commoners, betting cold hard cash that 0 peasants made the final cut. But Louis suddenly starts sweating. He stares blankly at the floating scoreboard. It only lists the top 6, and his name is nowhere to be found. The director's voice booms like thunder. These top 5 candidates completely shattered our historic academy records. 5th place flashes on screen. Miliano Roy. It is the tiny blue-haired mage who popped off earlier. The crowd gasps as 4th place drops. Kane Aranka. But wait, something is horribly wrong. The magical holographic portrait floating right next to Kane's name is actually showing Louis' dead serious face. The entire arena erupts into total confusion before anyone can process the weird visual glitch. 3rd place drops. Fei Yuren. The massive holographic projection displays the terrifying red-haired berserker. He is flexing a wildly arrogant grin on the massive screen. But down on the ground, Louis is having a total mental breakdown, completely ignoring the crazy rankings. He is visibly shaking, totally unable to process why the system is straight up ignoring his existence. Absolute panic sets in. He furiously wonders if the academy auto-banned him just for absolutely destroying those arrogant rich kids. Then, the director's booming voice shatters his spiraling thoughts. 2nd place goes to Louis Carroll, an unbelievable 887 points. A completely mind-blowing, legendary score for a nobody commoner. But the blonde noble, Kane Aranka, just stands there looking completely bamboozled. He had been chatting with the guy all day, totally clueless about his real identity. Kane saunters up to Louis. Because in this elite society, commoners are basically ghosts. "Hey, commoner," he smirks. But Louis just flashes a mysterious grin. "That is a secret," he whispers, keeping his insane abilities strictly under wraps. Kane simply shrugs off the dodge. "Do not forget, I won our little wager. I will cash in that favor after the exams." Louis brushes him off. Kane gives a cool nod. Suddenly, the entire arena goes dead silent. It is time for the rank 1 reveal. The top 4 powerhouses, Louis, Kane, and 2 fierce female warriors stand frozen. The tension in the air is thick enough to cut with a sword. The speakers boom. 1st place, a mind-bending 888 points. And the winner is Neil, another nobody. This absolute unit of a warrior kneels in the dirt, gripping a colossus of a warhammer. A cocky smirk spreads across his face. His crimson eyes blaze with pure battle lust. He has finally found some real prey. Do not bore me, his gaze screams. The VIP stands are completely cooked, jaws drop to the floor. 2 peasants totally hijacking the top ranks? He even crushed 5, the prodigy of the elite Duran bloodline. Neil's raw aura is just built different. The blue-haired noble girl stares at her own shaking hands. Reality shatters around her. The sheer humiliation of defeat hits her like a truck. But the pink-haired knight nearby? She is totally vibing with this absolute chaos. Flashing a wicked grin, she practically begs for a piece of him. Meanwhile, the rest of the elites are violently mauling, getting clapped by dirt-poor commoners. It is the ultimate slap to their silver spoon faces. One aristocrat absolutely loses his mind. "You are spitting on our legacy," he barks, his face twisted into an ugly snarl. High above the drama, the academy director simply watches. His assistant whispers in pure disbelief. 2 orphans dominating the entire elite class? This has literally never happened before. They completely hijacked the leaderboard. But the director's eyes gleam with hidden knowledge. He drops a heavy question. What do you think the Arcanists Association actually does with those orphanages? A dark secret lurks behind his words. The truth hits right there. Boom. Neil and Louis stand radiating massive red and blue energy waves, proving that pure power does not care about your bank account. The director's voice snaps everyone back. All second-stage survivors. Move to the final zone. Strolling to the next arena, Kane side-eyes his rival. "You almost snatched the crown, buddy. Makes me wonder, which of you 2 freaks is actually the apex predator?" Louis just takes a chill sip from his water flask. "Guess we will find out," he shrugs. The squad finally steps into Kandor Academy's infamous 3rd training ground, an absolute nightmare of a dark, overgrown forest. Welcome to the endgame. Floating in midair, cloaked in blinding gold light, the director drops the rules. It is a brutal survival game, a straight-up emblem battle royale. "Grab your magic tokens," he echoes. "Our seniors will scatter you like dust across this deadly jungle." Glowing crests glide into their hands. The mission? Hoard as many as you can. And yes, absolutely anything goes. Our trio locks down their tokens. But then, the director's voice turns dead serious. "Lose your crest, and you are instantly out. Only the 10 ultimate hoarders, the ones swimming in stolen emblems, will actually survive this academy." Kane shoots Louis a serious look. "We split up here. Top rankers like us? We basically have bullseyes painted on our backs." He warns Louis to watch his 6, before squatting back up with his elite crew. "I will try not to die," Louis replies. But the second Kane leaves, a devilish smirk creeps across Louis's face. He totally sees through the system. Broadcasting those ranks? It was a trap to turn the top dogs into walking loot drops. Scared? Please. He is literally starving for the smoke. Up in his tower, the director smiles like a proud villain. The chessboard is perfectly arranged. He sends a final psychic shockwave to the rookies. "Show me your true worth. And try not to perish." The bloodbath kicks off. Deep in the shadows, Louis steadies his breathing. The golden gates are right in front of him. He will crush anyone in his path. His mind is a total fortress right now. "Hold up, trash," a toxic voice echoes. Footsteps crunch in the dirt, and judging by the sound, a whole squad just rolled up. The tutorial is officially over. A salty aristocrat stomps out from the brush, flexing a heavy, battle-scarred axe. He flashes a psycho smile. "Found you, rat. Time to pay for embarrassing our bloodline." Louis does not even turn his head. A freezing side-eye is all they get. Zero panic, zero sweat. Just ice-cold killer instinct locking in. Within seconds, 5 more elites step out of the shadows. He is totally boxed in. They start laughing like hyenas. "Where is your rich boyfriend Kane now, huh? Nobody is saving you today." Louis' eyes widen just a fraction. Not from fear, but damn. This coordinated gang squad actually moved fast. 3 elite snobs lock onto his position. One packs a deadly crossbow, the second grips a heavy battle axe, and the last readies a razor-sharp spear. They completely box him in, choking out any chance of retreat. Without missing a beat, the spear wielders blitz forward for the kill. But Louis is built different. He explodes off the ground, executing a flawless backflip that makes their lethal thrusts hit dead air. Suspended in mid-air, his eyes narrow into absolute laser focus. His brain goes into overdrive, instantly downloading their attack patterns, and mapping out his counteroffensive. The absolute second his boots hit the dirt, a blast of raw magic forces him to react. He whips out a gravity-defying tornado kick to parry the spell, proving his combat instincts are straight-up monstrous. Sliding backward, he slams his blade into the earth as a break, catching his breath while his mind races. That last strike felt entirely wrong, completely throwing off his radar for standard physical damage. The axe-wielding aristocrat totally loses his cool. Spitting mad at this peasant's survival skills, he barks an order to just give up and die. His fragile ego is shattered in pieces, fueling a blind rage to execute the boy on the spot. But even backed into a deadly 3-on-1 corner, Louis dances through the battlefield like water. He weaves, parries, and shatters their synchronized assaults with jaw-dropping martial arts mastery. Out of nowhere, a vicious, emerald-glowing arrow screams right at his face. These cowards are not just relying on cold steel anymore, they are weaving sorcery into the mix. Louis clicks his tongue in pure annoyance, realizing these arcane blasts are raining down way too fast, turning his perfect defense into a chaotic nightmare. Relying on pure muscle memory, he snaps his wrist and swats the enchanted bolt away, his steel sparking against raw energy in a blinding, explosive shockwave. Not giving him a second to breathe, the spear-wielding punk lunges out of the smoke with a wild battle cry, eager to impale the supposedly trapped warrior. The gap closes in milliseconds. The arrogant noble sneers, channeling swirling gale magic into his weapon, while trash-talking Louis for being a magicless nobody. He is dead certain this souped-up hurricane strike is an absolute unblockable one-shot. But reality hits him like a truck when Louis ghosts through every single thrust, with impossible, phantom-like speed. Pure, unadulterated panic starts clawing at the noble's sanity. On the flip side, the heat is seriously cranking up on Louis. He internally curses his ultimate weakness. Magic trajectories are totally unpredictable to his combat senses, which is a massive, fatal flaw in a world ruled by mana. Forcing down his rising heart rate, he exhales a long, steady breath, freezing the chaos around him. His eyes turn as cold as absolute zero. If his brain cannot calculate the spell, he just needs to bypass the magic entirely and read the man casting it. It is time to drop his ultimate flex, Sen no Sen. A legendary counterstance that strikes in that microscopic window right before the enemy moves, reacting to their murderous intent instead of the physical weapon. With a predator's glare, Louis channels the absolute pinnacle of his martial arts, tapping into the battle's rhythm to hijack their own momentum. Up in the backlines, the head honcho of this pathetic hit squad, absolutely mauling over their embarrassing performance, barks out a desperate command to stop messing around and rush him together. The brain-dead strat is clear as day. Drown the kid in a relentless tidal wave of damage. Moving as a pack, the elites unleash a perfectly timed, omnidirectional hurricane of flashing steel and deadly spells. In their delusional minds, there is literally 0% chance that Louis walks out of this meat grinder alive. But staring down the barrel of certain death, the boy does not even blink. Instead, a menacing smirk creeps across his face as he scoffs at their pitiful attempt. Throwing defense out the window, he rockets straight into the danger zone. He does not see a fatal ambush. He sees the exact, glorious opening he was baiting out. The heavyweight axe swinger, high on his own hype, roars in pure victory, utterly convinced his executioner's chop is about to split the kid in half. As the lethal blade plummets like a meteor, Louis phases right under the swing, completely breaking the sound barrier. The devastating strike cleaves absolutely nothing but air. Activating Sen no Sen, Louis uses the flat of his blade to effortlessly parry the heavy momentum, sliding up way past the enemy's guard. The brute's own massive force rips away his center of gravity, turning his lethal swing into a total joke. Blurring the lines between shielding and striking, Louis executes a masterclass in combat flow. Hijacking the massive opening, he literally weaponizes the giant's falling body, violently tossing him like a rag doll into the charging spearman. Without skipping a single frame, he stomps the dirt, blasting a smokescreen of dust into the third guy's eyes, flawlessly disabling the entire front line in 1 second flat. But the combo is not over yet. He instantly snipes a dropped spear from the dirt and unleashes a brutal leg sweep, dropping the remaining goons and flipping the script entirely. Thinking he is safe up in the branches, the cowardly sniper unloads a crackling, high-voltage mana bolt, a pinpoint tactical nuke locked right onto Louis' blind spot. But with psychopathic precision, Louis yanks one of the staggered elites off the floor, slamming him forward as an involuntary meat shield. The devastating arcane blast violently detonates into the aristocrat's spine, absorbing the fatal damage intended for our boy. The human shield crumbles into a bloody, paralyzed heap on the forest floor, dropping the dead weight like a piece of trash. Louis grumbles a dark string of curses, absolutely disgusted that these cowards forced him to play this dirty. Twirling his freshly looted spear with lethal grace, Louis slowly tilts his head up, locking onto the surviving prey. His terrifying glare pierces straight through the sniper in the trees, his entire aura practically screaming absolute murder. Pouring every ounce of his aura into the shaft, Louis launches the spear with terrifying velocity, literally weaponizing his enemy's own gear against them. The impact hits like an absolute nuke, shattering the massive tree trunk into a million splinters and forcing the sniper up top to bail out just in time to dodge a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Wasting zero time, Louis closes the gap. He unleashes a masterclass in hand-to-hand combat, threading brutal kicks and flawless strikes together like a deadly dance, ripping through the surviving aristocrats like an absolute hurricane. These stuck-up elites do not even stand a chance, dropping to the dirt, one after another. The moment their auras fade, their glowing trial emblems pop loose and hover mid-air. That is an instant game over for this squad's exam run. Without even breaking a sweat, Louis snatches the floating loot right out of the sky, completely securing the ultimate spoils. Surrounded by a pile of knocked-out enemies, he gazes at his newly acquired badges. With ice in his veins, he states that these belong to him now. Sweating bullets, the cornered squad leader loses his mind, shrieking at his sniper to stop selling, and blast Louis with a full-power magic barrage before it is too late. But his desperate crying gets instantly shut down by a chillingly sarcastic voice dropping from the canopy above. Enter Kane. The blonde powerhouse ghosted his way up there and is literally holding the sniper's weapon. "Were you calling for me?" he taunts, with zero hesitation. Faster than anyone can blink, Kane completely bodies the archer. The guy plummets from the branches and craters into the soil, instantly knocked out cold. Chilling on a thick branch like he owns the place, Kane toys with the stolen gear. He looks down at the wrecked elite with an absolute smirk. "Tough luck on that whole magic thing," he mocks. The squad leader is practically malfunctioning, staring up at Kane in pure, unfiltered panic. He screams out, demanding to know how Kane bypassed their trap, since their whole strategy relied on keeping this monster distracted somewhere else. Flashing a wicked grin, Kane reveals the ultimate reverse card. He basically played along with their little scheme, just to squeeze every ounce of intel out of them. These guys seriously thought they could outsmart the Aranka bloodline. Foaming at the mouth with toxic rage, the leader vows to crush both of them right here and now. But it is literally the most pathetic bluff ever. It just proves how totally and utterly broken his squad really is. Completely unfazed by the tantrum, Kane drops down and puts the guy to sleep with a brutal whack from the weapon stock. Fight over. Now that the dust has settled, Louis casually walks up to his ally, brushing off the ambush like it was absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, Kane is just whining about how loud the guy's screaming was. Showing zero stress, he talks pure trash about these bottom-tier aristocrats, and then casually tosses the sniper's badge over to Louis. Splitting the loot after pulling off that massive brain play, Kane pitches a team-up, pointing out that Louis is going to keep drawing heavy aggro from everyone. But our main character instantly shoots the idea down, radiating pure lone wolf energy as he coldly states he carries his own weight. But suddenly, the sound of slow clapping cuts through the forest silence. A fierce warrior steps out of the shadows. Hyped up by his savage mindset, she loudly praises his absolute confidence. "Now that is the legend I remember," she shouts. Striding out from the thick woods, this heavily armored powerhouse flexes her own spear with insane swagger, locking eyes with Louis. Her gaze is burning with pure battle lust, completely thirsty for a brutal, up-close brawl. "Throw down with me right now," she roars. Louis just stares back, realizing his downtime is already over. The next deadly phase is officially kicking off. The blonde prodigy standing next to him immediately tenses up. Kane quickly drops the lore on exactly who this crazy newcomer is. "That is Fighterun," he mutters. "She is literally the heir to an absolute grandmaster's legacy." Louis gives him a side-eye and asks if they are buddies. Kane completely loses his cool, shouting that he would never hang with a muscle-brained maniac like her, making his sky-high stress levels incredibly obvious. As the battle-crazy girl closes in, Kane reluctantly confesses that they have clashed in the past, but he immediately starts coping, making up excuses about how he only lost because he slipped up. Without missing a beat, Louis ruthlessly roasts him. "So you caught a massive L," he sighs, growing visibly impatient. Getting ghosted straight to her face? Not happening. Faye cuts right into their path. "Cut the bromance and answer me," she snaps, her voice dripping with authority. "Are we throwing down, or what?" Beside Louis, Kane leans in, whispering that they should just walk away, and strictly farm those emblems. He drops a quick warning that this girl already awakened her mana, flexing apprentice-tier magic, but Faye's ears are razor-sharp, and her temper completely shatters. "Oh, so you are just going to tuck tail and run?" she screams, branding them straight-up cowards who know they would get crushed. That word strikes a nerve. Louis steps up to the plate. A cold, confident smirk pulls at his lips. "Bet," he replies. "I have been dying to see how a so-called elite noble actually handles themselves in a real fight. That strikes the perfect chord with Faye. Now, we are talking," she beams, her ego practically glowing. Flexing her massive pride, she drops a handicap. "To keep things fair, I will not even touch my magic." Then, boom, she blasts forward like a rocket. "Eat this!" she roars, unleashing her family's signature strike, the sacred spear impact. As the deadly tip barrels toward him, Louis does not even flinch. His irises flare with a chilling neon blue as his combat analysis system kicks into overdrive, calculating the spear's exact kill path in a microsecond. Blurring into motion, Louis effortlessly swats the thrust aside, dodging the lethal steel by an absolute hair's breadth. Faye freezes dead in her tracks, her jaw practically hitting the floor. "Wait, you actually," she stammers, her brain glitching at the fact her ultimate strike just whiffed. Louis, now clamping his hand around her spear shaft like a vice, stares her down with zero emotion. Stopped it? Yeah. Faye grits her teeth, pulling with every ounce of her raw strength. But it is useless. Louis is an absolute tank, and that weapon is not budging a single millimeter. Reading her panic, he hijacks her own momentum. A sharp twist, a brutal yank, and he sends her completely sprawling across the dirt. But the fight is far from over. Faye violently bounces back, ripping her spear in a massive, deadly arc, yet Louis is a ghost, weaving through the silver flashes while cooking up his counterattack. Refusing to take another loss, Faye backflips to secure the high ground and screams into the wind. Round 2. Her aura explodes around her, funneling pure energy into the sacred spear to unleash an absolute hailstorm of high-speed thrusts. The combo's finishing strike craters the earth, setting off a massive shockwave of dust and crushed rock that rockets into the sky. Miles away, the brilliant flash catches the eyes of two men. These academy instructors have been shadow watching this clash from second one. Pushing up his glasses, one of them smirks, noting it has been a hot minute since the legendary Duran family spear arts graced the field. He absolutely hypes up her flawless mechanics and raw explosive power. That is pure prodigy tier right there, he states. But his partner is not buying the hype just yet, narrowing his eyes at the boy in the dust. Just some commoner, he scoffs. Down in the crater, Louis is still dancing through the energy blasts, his system crunching the final numbers. That reach is seriously toxic, Louis calculates in his head, his eyes tracking every silver flash. But wait, the combat interface suddenly locks onto massive blind spots. He finally decodes the rhythm of her assault. Faye gears up for the next phase, twirling her polearm into a raging, glowing hurricane of energy that guards her from every angle. But Louis has the cheat code. Her fatal flaw is inside the guard, he realizes, mapping out the exact breach point in her fortress. Magical runes ignite and orbit his body, his eyes blazing with absolute certainty. The win condition is set. If I perfectly frame trap this attack and snap the distance to 0, I take the lead. Louis explodes from his stance, activating his killer art, the Eskrima sword dance. A storm of azure blades howls straight for her throat. Faye's eyes track the lethal movement flawlessly. Instead of sweating, a devilish smirk stretches across her face. I see right through you, she gloats internally, fully downloading his rushdown strategy. You really think that basic garbage works on me? Bring it, she roars. And biting back her retreat, she plants her boots deep into the earth, ready to clash with pure, unadulterated violence. Perfectly timing his dive, she uses her lead foot as an anchor, torquing her entire body into a devastating cyclone sweep. Screaming at the top of her lungs, Faye turns her spear into an absolute blur, sparking a localized tornado that shreds Louis' azure blades into nothingness. Real panic finally shatters Louis' calm face. His perfect counter, specifically engineered for zero-distance brawling, just got totally walled. How is this possible? Drunk on the thrill of battle, Faye's eyes go wild with madness, completely eating up the moment. The Duran bloodline has 0 blind spots. You scrub, she cackles. Say your prayers, Louis Carrel. Forced onto the extreme defensive, Louis desperately backpedals through her hurricane of thrusts, completely locked out of her guard. Up in the bleachers, the instructors are absolutely mind-blown. They whisper that even the legendary spear sovereign himself did not unlock that art until age 16. If she stacked mana on top of this, she would wipe the floor with the entire rookie class. In their eyes, the kid's fate is already sealed. Pushed to the absolute brink, Louis grits his teeth, realizing he is backed into a fatal corner. But backing down isn't in his vocabulary. Shifting gears, he drops his aggressive assault and locks into an impenetrable defensive stance. Unleashing a high-tier fencing art known as Swordnet, Louis weaves a blinding dome of rapid-fire parries, perfectly neutralizing Faye's hurricane of strikes. While holding the line, his tactical mind goes to work. He remembers the fatal flaw of all heavy spear arts. They completely devour the user's stamina. It is time to play the long game. If he can maintain this flawless guard, a critical opening is bound to reveal itself. He is dead set on winning this war of attrition. But the overwhelming kinetic force takes its toll, and an ominous web of cracks begins creeping up his steel blade. Unaware of his scheme, Faye turns into a battlefield dancer, raining down a merciless, unending tempest of thrusts with her blazing spear. A brilliant blue light flares in Louis' eyes. Pushing his combat calculation skills into overdrive, he completely tunes out the crumbling state of his weapon. His entire focus narrows down to a single objective. He is waiting for that split-second gasp where her endless energy pool finally hits rock bottom. And there it is. Right in the heart of her raging vortex, a microscopic flinch. Gotcha, Louis smirks, exploding forward like a coiled spring. His aura-coated blade darts toward that one fleeting blind spot. The resulting shockwave is absolutely earth-shattering as Louis' strike collides dead center with the tip of Faye's spear. A deafening crunch of screaming metal rips through the entire training grounds. The arrogant smirk on Faye's face instantly dissolves into sheer horror. The legendary spearhead, the absolute pride of her noble bloodline, has been completely pulverized. Shards of priceless magical steel rain down across the battlefield like broken glass. For the first time today, the untouchable heiress has taken a massive blow to her ego. But victory demands a toll, and as Louis glances down, he realizes the devastating impact did not spare him either. His trusty blade has been violently snapped dead in half. The severed upper half plummets, stabbing deeply into the dirt. Louis is left holding nothing but a jagged hilt and a worthless chunk of scrap metal. The chaotic arena suddenly drops into a dead silence. Both prodigies just stand there, catching their breath while staring at the chaotic aftermath. Two ruined weapons. A textbook technical draw. Faye finally breaks the tension, her voice dripping with a totally unexpected layer of respect. Not bad, she concedes. If your cheap sword had not given out, you were setting up a lethal counter, were you not? Louis offers a nonchalant nod. Yeah. Tossing the ruined hilt a side glance, he lets out a heavy sigh. Guess my luck stat is just absolute trash today. Out of nowhere, Faye puffs her cheeks like a grumpy toddler and jabs an accusing finger right at his chest. Hold on, you have been holding back this whole time, haven't you? Louis offers a smooth, totally unapologetic shrug. Just testing the waters before I dive in. A dangerously cocky smirk begins stretching across his face. But playtime is officially over, he declares. I am turning up the heat. Faye blinks in pure confusion, totally failing to grasp his sudden spike in confidence. Are you delusional? Your weapon is literally trash right now, she scoffs, completely oblivious to the monster she is about to awaken. Without a word, Louis carelessly drops the heavy hilt into the dirt. He cracks his knuckles, rolling his shoulders as his entire aura shifts into something terrifying. Oozing with absolute main character energy, he finally drops the massive plot twist. Honestly, he smirks, dropping low into a flawless, bare-knuckle brawler stance. I have always been a hands-on kind of guy. Faye just gapes at him, but that shock instantly morphs into blazing excitement. The kid gloves are officially off. She makes the split-second decision to nuke him with every ounce of mana she has left in the tank. Missing tip or not, her spiritual pressure is absolutely suffocating. Stomping the cratered earth, she channels a roaring, crimson fire aura directly through her wooden staff. Like a rocket leaving the atmosphere, she propels herself forward in a blinding, corkscrew charge, transforming into a literal meteor of superheated energy. It is a reckless, all-or-nothing ultimate move. Yet, staring down a literal fireball, Louis does not even flinch. He simply raises his bare hands into an ironclad guard, preparing to tank the apocalyptic strike. Watching from the sidelines, Kane absolutely loses his mind. Are you crazy? That is her signature spinning dive, Kane screams until his lungs burn. If he tries to block that, he will be instantly vaporized. Louis completely tunes out the background noise. His eyes flare with a piercing azure glow, as complex calculation runes begin wrapping around his forearms like futuristic armor. The world drops into extreme slow motion. Within his mental landscape, he perfectly dissects the kinetic force, heat signature, and exact trajectory of her blazing meteor strike. He is not planning to block a single thing. He is going to hijack it. At the exact microsecond of impact, Louis' hands snap out, gripping the spinning staff. Instead of having his bones reduced to ash, he moves like water. With terrifying precision, he flows with her momentum, forcefully steering her chaotic fire aura off its tracks. Roaring through the strain, he completely overrides her control. He rips the spiraling tornado of flames to the side, sending the devastating energy crashing harmlessly into the empty arena. Just like that, a noble's ultimate killer move is swatted away like an annoying fly. Kane's jaw practically hits the floor, his brain totally short-circuiting at the impossible scene. It completely breaks his reality. The absolute madman did not just survive, he fully dismantled the Duran family's legendary technique with nothing but his bare hands. Skidding to a halt yards away, Faye slowly turns her head. Her fiery confidence is entirely replaced by a mask of cold, paralyzing dread. No way! Her inner voice screams, her noble pride utterly refusing to process this glitch in the matrix. Her untouchable ego as a high-born elite completely shatters to dust. How could Louis, a so-called bottom-tier commoner, stand there totally unfazed after completely humiliating her trump card? Up in the VIP stands, the veteran instructors and Lorraine are completely losing their minds. Their professional composure vanishes as they try to process this absolute anomaly. Faye Duran's blazing charge was mathematically guaranteed to secure the win. Gripping the railing, one of the elite teachers mutters in absolute shock. What kind of monster is this kid? Furious at the sudden twist, Faye lets out a battle cry. She makes it crystal clear this fight is just getting started. Launching herself forward like a missile, she cleaves the air with her heavy spear, desperate to crush Louis under her sheer power. Her eyes burn with raw malice. Knowing a single blow won't cut it, she erupts into a relentless storm of strikes. Boom! Her blade craters the earth exactly where Louis Carrel stood a split second ago, showcasing the absolutely terrifying weight behind her thrust. But amidst the flying debris, Louis doesn't even flinch. His gaze remains ice cold, instantly downloading her attack pattern. He is already locking in his counterattack. Pushed to the brink, Faye decides to go all out and triggers her signature ultimate move. Flash step. Dozens of after images split from her body, completely boxing Louis in. Cloaked in a raging aura, the Phantom Warriors dive in, unleashing a hurricane of steel. Trapped dead center in the kill zone, Louis stares down a wall of jagged blades, closing in on his blind spots. Yet, facing this overwhelming execution, the absolute madman just smirks. It is all playing right into his hands. Without missing a beat, he flexes his own hidden power, manifesting spectral limbs born entirely from his god-tier speed and flawless martial mastery. "Is that all you got?" he taunts casually. Moving with robotic precision, Louis shoots out a bandaged hand and catches the lethal spear tip bare-handed. In a single heartbeat, the unstoppable momentum vanishes. The camera pans in. His fingers are clamped like a steel vise around the shaft, completely choking out her magical energy in a jaw-dropping flex. Like a shadow, Louis' silhouette ghosts through the barrage, swatting away every incoming thrust, with water-like grace that defies human physics. Faye's jaw drops. Her brain short-circuits, trying to process how a lowly commoner could utterly dismantle her elite spear arts. Observing from the sidelines, Lord Kane narrows his eyes, his veteran instincts kicking in. He instantly decodes the trick. Louis is employing a hyper-specific technique to kill the weapon's raw torque. Blown away by this genius, Kane mutters that in all his years, he has never witnessed such sorcery. The harsh reality that a no-name kid just styled on the legendary Cyclone Strike of the mighty Duran bloodline leaves the Lord speechless. Meanwhile, Louis' eyes ignite with a piercing neon blue aura. It is time to flip the script. Channeling his inner ki, he takes total control of the battlefield. With a surgical flick of his wrists, Louis violently parries the weapon, shattering her center of gravity and blasting her backward. Hijacked by her own terrifying momentum, Faye scrambles to stay upright. She violently stabs her blade into the dirt, just to break, but the sheer force of Louis' deflection crushes her down onto one knee. Biting her lip until it bleeds, she spits curses into the dust. Her pride refuses to accept that her ultimate move was swatted away like a fly. Losing her mind, she screams at him, demanding to know what kind of freakish magic he just pulled off. Radiating an infuriating chill, Louis drops a truth bomb. It is just a basic martial arts parry. He casually explains how he matched her rotation, perfectly syncing with the weapon's spin, to completely devour its kinetic energy. Hearing this, Faye's brain straight up stops working. Parry rotation? She stammers, her reality shattering at the thought of raw hands overpowering high-tier magic. Realizing he is talking to a brick wall, Louis just sighs. Explaining the physics is a total waste of breath, so he lets out a battle cry and explodes off the ground, rushing in for the finisher. This absolute disrespect leaves Faye paralyzed, completely frozen by his sudden hyper-aggression. Flashing a predatory glare, Louis bridges the massive gap in a microsecond. His footwork is practically glitching across the field, tapping out an alien rhythm she has never encountered. Using this phantom-like evasion, he leaves behind trails of after-images to bait her next strike. Desperate, she swings her massive polearm in a lethal arc, but it slices nothing but wind. Louis has already blinked to a completely new angle. His chaotic speed bends reality, making it look like there are 5 of him on the field. He weaves through her attacks like a ghost. Up in the stands, even Lord Kane violently rubs his eyes, questioning if he is trapped in some high-level optical illusion. Louis' mesmerizing steps literally paint the arena with glowing, ethereal butterflies. The crowd is completely spellbound, watching a human move exactly like a dancing butterfly. Driven to absolute madness, Faye screams. He is standing at point-blank range, yet she cannot even graze his clothes. This insane ability is the legendary butterfly step, a flawless footwork art pioneered by a mythic boxing champion. Shuffling rapidly with zero gravity, this feather-light stance creates a broken tempo that completely short-circuits the opponent's brain. Now, stepping into the danger zone, Louis calculates his next move, knowing this exact rhythm is the perfect counter to shred her heavy spear defenses. Spotting the fatal blind spot, he tightly coils his fist and unleashes a devastating right hook, burying it dead center into Faye's solar plexus. The kinetic shockwave is so massive that Faye is instantly ragdolled through the air, completely defenseless. Lord Kane loses his mind, screaming from the balcony as he watches the noble girl get blasted away. Next to him, the head instructor's jaw literally hits the floor. A total underdog is completely rewriting the laws of combat right before their eyes. The faculty whispers in pure shock, realizing a chilling truth. Even stripped of magic, practically nobody in this academy could ever survive a one-on-one against Faye, until today. The realization hits everyone like a freight train. This kid is not just strong. Louis is a straight-up close combat prodigy. He towers over a broken Faye, casting a long shadow over her defeated form. White-hot steam rolls off his shoulders like a raging furnace. Despite the insane clash, his stance does not shift a single inch. He is an absolute wall. But noble pride is a dangerous thing. Battered and bleeding, Faye forces herself upright. Her voice rings out, fueled by pure arrogance. She is a daughter of the legendary Duran bloodline, and she refuses to bow. Louis just stares, deadpan. Heat continues to sizzle from his bruised knuckles. Cornered by her own crushing ego, Faye gambles everything on one final, desperate strike. A crimson aura violently explodes around her. She channels every last drop of her life force, screaming that a noble never falls to a lowly commoner. Wait a minute, Louis narrows his eyes. She tossed away her signature spear. Is she actually going to translate her piercing weapon arts into barehanded combat? With a blood-curdling war cry, Faye launches herself forward. She closes the distance in a heartbeat, fists locked and loaded for total destruction. Louis instantly shifts his weight. His combat instincts recognize the fluid movements immediately. It is Wing Chun, and he knows exactly how to tear it apart. Faye descends like a falling meteor, pouring every ounce of her remaining power into a crushing downward blow. But Louis does not flinch. He perfectly executes Pak Sao, a flawless palm parry that effortlessly sweeps her kinetic energy aside. But Faye is relentless. She is already linking her next attack. Crushing fist. She roars, throwing a devastating counter. Their knuckles collide in midair. A deafening shockwave rips through the arena, an absolute explosion of raw kinetic force. Louis feels the heavy reverberation in his bones. Her explosive impact? It is dangerously close to the legendary one-inch punch. He actually throws her a compliment, but Faye just sneers back. The glorious Duran family does not just dominate with blades, they are masters of absolute combat. Refusing to give him a single second to breathe, she unleashes an absolute hurricane of violent strikes. Crushing fist, crushing fist. Her screams echo across the battlefield. A terrifying grin creeps onto Louis' face. The challenge? He is completely here for it. Bring it on, he roars back. Behind him, the colossal, spectral phantom of a heavyweight champion materializes. Their fists blur into a blinding, high-speed collision. It is a magnificent storm of martial prowess, tearing up the very earth beneath them. But something shifts. A manic, almost psychotic smile stretches across Louis' face, his eyes igniting with a sinister crimson glare. This is the exact thrill he has been starving for. Deep within the abyssal depths of his soul, a dark voice begins to chant, "More. Give me more." Within the pitch-black void of his consciousness, a demonic, blood-red heart violently pulses to life. The seal shatters. Louis' pupils shrink into terrifying, glowing slits of absolute malice. The dormant beast has finally awakened. Cloaked in an oppressive, demonic aura, Louis tilts his head. Let us make this a little more fun, shall we? A gargantuan, nightmare-inducing shadow swallows the light behind him. Faye's momentum completely dies. The very air around her turns freezing cold. What in the world is that? An icy shiver violently travels down her spine. Louis' suffocating bloodlust takes the shape of a colossal demon, its jagged jaws opening wide to swallow her whole. Pure, unadulterated dread locks her joints. Her eyes widen in sheer horror. The predator has pinned its prey. She cannot move a single muscle. Blurring out of existence, Louis crosses the space in a microsecond. His fist connects with her face in a brutal, jaw-shattering impact. The sheer kinetic force lifts her entirely off her feet. A crimson arc of blood paints the sky. The duel is over, and it is a total massacre. The academy head instructor drops his jaw in pure disbelief. What kind of monstrous energy was that? It defies every law of aura he has ever known. Louis touches back down with terrifying calmness. Meanwhile, Faye's ragdolled body is launched backward like a cannonball. She brutally skips across the dirt before slamming into a massive oak tree. The trunk violently splinters in half on impact, leaving the proud noble completely lifeless in the wreckage. The elite students watching from the grandstands are absolutely paralyzed. The color drains entirely from their faces. A suffocating, dead silence chokes the arena. Their privileged brains simply cannot compute the absolute destruction they just witnessed. To see their golden girl, the untouchable Faye, get brutally dismantled, that shockwave of disbelief rapidly mutates into blazing, humiliated fury. No way. This is impossible, someone mutters through gritted teeth. A filthy, unranked commoner just humiliated a top-tier noble. But Bran, another noble elite, is violently clawing at his own hair. His eyes are practically bulging out of his skull. It is not just Louis' suffocating power that broke him. It is the chilling recognition of an ancient, forbidden darkness. Something so deeply evil, it physically twists his guts into knots. The sheer psychological horror is too much. Ryan doubles over and violently throws up on the sidelines. Sitz grabs his shoulder, completely baffled. Dude, what is wrong with you? Sitz is completely blind to the nightmare. He has absolutely no idea about the primordial, legendary terror that just assaulted Ryan's senses. Shaking like a leaf, Ryan gasps for air. He stammers out fragments of an ancient, taboo myth. A legend so catastrophically dark, just speaking its name makes his stomach heave. His mind violently flashes back to the image of Louis, bathed in that sickening, bloody aura. Could that street rat actually be the reincarnation of the forgotten nightmare? Right next to him, an enraged Sitz shatters the bark of a tree with his bare fist. The whole operation is ruined, he spits out furiously. Who could have ever predicted that trash possessed this kind of monstrous strength? A thin line of blood trickles down Sitz's chin from biting his own lip in absolute frustration. But Ryan, looking like a literal ghost, just trembles. If the myth is true, Ryan whispers, his voice cracking, then we have to kill him. Now. The haunting image of Louis's demonic glare burns into Sitz's mind, cementing his deadly new resolution. The commoner is no longer just a nuisance. He is an existential threat. The memory violently rewinds back to the climax of the brutal execution. We see Faye, desperately clawing at the dirt, her spirit broken but still trying to stand. But Louis, radiating pure demonic malice, pivots into a devastating tornado kick. A swirling vortex of crimson destruction slams directly into her chest, sending a fountain of blood into the air. As the crushing impact finally turns her lights out for good, her legs finally gave out. Looming over her like an apex predator, Louis let out a massive roar. He channeled every ounce of his aura into his right fist, ready to deliver the final, crushing blow. A blinding storm of blood-red aura exploded outward. An absolute barrage of fists rained down on the battlefield like a devastating meteor shower. Pinned to the dirt, Faye took the brutal bombardment head-on. With her vision blurring, a terrifying realization hit her. His speed, his raw strength, they were in a completely different dimension. There is literally no way I can win this, she thought, panic setting in. Above her, a colossal fist forged from pure crimson energy materialized in the sky. Absolute terror gripped her soul as she stared death in the face. If that attack connects, I am completely dead. At this rate, this guy is actually going to murder me, her inner voice screamed. Pushed to the absolute brink, Faye gambled everything. She ignited her ultimate hidden card, the Martial Arcana. A glowing spell circle materialized beneath her, as blazing mana gathered around her arm. Thrusting her arm forward, she unleashed her signature move, the Blazing Fire Fist. An inferno of flames surged upward, violently clashing with Louis's dark, demonic aura. The two catastrophic forces slammed into each other dead center, detonating into a monstrous explosion that swallowed the entire arena. The sheer force of the shockwave launched Faye into the air like a rag doll. Her cries were instantly drowned out by the deafening blast. She was sent hurtling through the dense forest at breakneck speed, violently shattering massive tree trunks before finally crashing into the dirt. The insane recoil did not spare Louis either, forcefully shoving him backward. His boots carved deep trenches into the solid earth as he skidded to a halt. As the thick smoke cleared, Louis stared at his trembling hands. The chaotic glow in his eyes had finally faded back to normal. Did it happen again? He whispered, snapping out of his violent trance. The last sparks of demonic aura fizzled out from his knuckles. Covered in bruises and gasping for air, he could still feel that terrifying power coursing through his veins. He had zero clue what kind of monster he had just unleashed, or what this dark power meant for his future. Watching from afar, Kane was absolutely speechless. So this is real magic, he thought, sprinting straight toward his friend. Hey, are you still breathing? Kane yelled in a panic. Still completely out of it, Louis could only stress over Faye. I am good, but damn it all. Out of nowhere, an instructor's voice boomed over the speakers. Candidates number 39 and 47. Your emblems have been destroyed. Louis and Kane whipped their heads around in pure shock. Stepping out from the shadows was Sid, wearing the most punchable, arrogant smirk ever. You are officially disqualified, he announced for the whole forest to hear. Louis instantly looked down at his shoulder. His exam badge, his only ticket into the academy, was engulfed in raging flames. Within seconds, the magical fire reduced it to dust, blowing away in the wind and sealing his dark fate. Sid's entire squad of elitist nobles erupted into obnoxious laughter. You lost, peasant! Pack your bags and get out! Kane immediately stepped up to defend his bro. Back off. It was clearly an accident, but Sid just flashed a venomous smile, reminding them that the director was watching their every move. Do not tell me you are actually trying to protect a cheating commoner? Sid sneered coldly. He took an aggressive step toward Louis, spitting pure venom. You are nothing but a nuisance. Trash like you should have been wiped off the map ages ago. The tension was literally about to snap when a fragile but fiercely determined voice cut through the air. "Hold on!" Everyone froze, turning their heads in pure disbelief. It was Faye, dragging her battered body forward. She stepped straight into the crossfire. Louis stared at her, his jaw practically hitting the floor. How was she even conscious after taking that catastrophic hit? Limping heavily and dripping with blood, the proud warrior closed the distance. Completely ignoring her own brutal injuries, her eyes locked onto Louis. "Are you hurt?" she asked softly. Sid completely lost his mind, screaming at the top of his lungs. "Are you seriously taking the side of a filthy commoner? Do you want to get yourself kicked out for breaking academy rules?" "Shut your mouth!" Faye barked back with absolute authority. Staring daggers into Sid, she openly admitted that Louis's badge was indeed destroyed. But then, the unthinkable happened. Dropping her immense pride, the fierce noblewoman bowed her head. "I am so sorry," she told Louis. "I panicked and triggered my magic by mistake." Kane was absolutely mind-blown. Louis instantly tried to take the blame, admitting his own power went totally berserk. But Faye just waved it off with a gentle smile. "Do not sweat it," she reassured him. "You pushed me to the absolute limit. That makes you the clear winner today." Looking him dead in the eye, she promised him a massive rematch once they both entered the academy. Sid practically choked on his own spit. "Are you delusional?" he scoffed. "This peasant only has 4 measly tokens left. He is practically expelled already." Without missing a single beat, Faye violently ripped her massive loot pouch from her waist. With zero hesitation, she tossed her entire stash of collected emblems straight to Louis. "Catch," she commanded smoothly. "Consider this the grand prize for kicking my butt." Flashing a defiant glare at the nobles, she dropped some heavy logic. "His badge burned after he totally destroyed me. Technically, his victory is 100% valid." Sid's blood pressure shot through the roof. He screamed her name like an absolute maniac, unable to process this massive betrayal of their elite social class. Treating Sid like background noise, Faye casually pivoted toward Kane. "Hey there, handsome," she threw out with a wink, leaving the swordsman completely flustered and blushing. Her tone suddenly shifted to dead serious. "There is absolutely no way I am letting weak cowards pass this exam, while true monsters like him get left behind." Completely ignoring Sid's absolute meltdown, she kicked her heavy spear off the dirt, catching the shaft perfectly midair. She was ready to hunt. Spinning the weapon flawlessly, she threw a sly riddle at Kane. "Question: what happens to our boy Louis if the guy in 10th place suddenly hoards 14 badges or more?" The realization hit Kane like a truck. A devilish smirk spread across his face as he unsheathed his gleaming blade. "Man, what a crazy coincidence. I was literally plotting the exact same thing." With explosive speed, the two warriors vanished into the forest to hunt down some nobles. Sprinting beside her, Kane laughed out loud. "Look at you, Faye. Who knew you had an actual brain behind all those muscles?" Her cheeks burning crimson, she snaps at him to pick up the pace, yelling that she has to go farm more emblems. A soft smirk tugs at Louis's lips as he watches the duo sprint away. But the wholesome moment shatters when an instructor steps up, ready to march him right out of the testing zone. With absolute zero emotion, the proctor drops the hammer. Thanks to losing his token, Louis is officially disqualified. The guide offers an escort off the premises, and our main character just rolls with it. But as he walks away, Sid is practically burning holes into the back of his head, eyes absolutely dripping with venom. "Do not even think you are off the hook," he hisses under his breath, his knuckles turning totally white from sheer rage. The reality check hits hard. If his teammates actually pull this off, Louis gets a free pass anyway. "I am so done looking at that loser's face," he snarls. Suddenly, a totally unhinged thought creeps into his brain. What if a candidate just happened to catch a fatal accident? Out here in the wild, that would not raise a single red flag, right? A seriously messed up grin spreads across his face. His absolute yes man immediately hypes him up. "Say less, Sid. Put him in the dirt." Then, he adds with a sick little sneer, "I just pray he does not fold as fast as the rest of that trash." Cut to Ran, who is literally still vibrating from the sheer aura he witnessed earlier. The image of Louis's terrifying, demonic glare is living rent-free in his head, making him question who, or what, Louis Carroll actually is. Miles away from the drama, the proctor hits Louis with a hard truth bomb. Sure, his physical combat skills are completely broken, but raw fists alone will never outscale pure magic. Louis just locks his gaze on the massive academy on the horizon. His ultimate endgame? Cooking up a flawless fusion of mana and martial arts to unlock a totally god-tier level of power. The sun dips, and night completely swallows the sky. A massive full moon casts a glowing spotlight, wrapping up a seriously chaotic day. Louis strolls solo down a moonlit cobblestone path, finally heading back to base. He looks down, only to realize his fit is absolutely shredded from the battle. "Okay, this is tragically bad," he sweats. "How on earth do I spin this to my mom?" If he actually drops the truth, she is going to panic and spam him with a million questions he definitely does not want to answer. Bam! His survival instincts scream. A cloaked shadow materializes out of thin air right behind him. Crimson eyes flash in the dark as the assassin goes straight for a kill shot. Moving like lightning, Louis unsheathes his blade, parrying the fatal blow at the absolute last microsecond. With zero hesitation, he weaves, strips the weapon, and absolutely buries the attacker into the dirt before they can even blink. The hitman, completely paralyzed on the ground, stares up in pure disbelief. "How did you read my movement?" he gasps. Louis just pinches his nose and drops the coldest response. "The stench of blood. You really cannot mask that, bro." Right on cue, a whole squad of goons spills out of the shadows, locking him in a death circle. The head honcho scoffs. "You are way too chill for a kid who is about to get packed up." Louis instantly scans the threat level, clocking that these guys are not amateur hour. He is going to have to burn everything in his tank to make it out of this meat grinder alive. But his radar locks onto one specific shadow lurking deep in the tree line. That guy right there, he calculates. Major boss energy. Catching him looking away for a split second, a random mob rushes in. "Hey, punk," the guy barks, launching himself into the air with his blade fully cocked. "Take your eyes off me, and you lose your head." Trapped deep in the woods, our guy Louis is backed into a massive corner. He is staring down a lethal death squad that is totally committed to deleting him from existence. Seeing them flex their mana, he has literally zero choice but to pop his hidden skill. Instantly, his right eye ignites with a blinding, icy blue flare. Even against a full raid party, Louis glides with terrifying, frame-perfect speed, ghosting right through a deadly slash and winding up a nasty counterswing with his dagger. Kicking his inner breathing arts into overdrive, he pumps raw ki straight into the steel. The edge starts vibrating with arcane energy, literally singing with world-ending potential. Slash. In one flawlessly brutal arc, Louis drops an enemy to the floor, making a massive statement that his melee game is leagues above their pay grade. Another rogue dives for a dirty ankle sweep, but Louis just styles on him. His physical stats are honestly bordering on supernatural. He launches himself straight up into the sky, totally dodging the ground squad, rushing his position. Looking up, the remaining cloaked freaks track his hang time, bracing for impact. That is when the raid boss finally steps into the light. He actually claps for Louis' insane mechanics, admitting that his god-tier reflexes and elite martial arts perfectly match the data-mined intel they received. Scuffed up but still completely dialed in, Louis catches that slip-up. Intel, he thinks, the puzzle pieces clicking. This was not a random gank. This was a highly calculated hit. The leader smirks, confessing that Louis' hands are rated just as high as a seasoned prodigy's. But then he talks trash, asking how Pure Fists plan to counter raw magic. On his signal, the backline snipers raise their enchanted crossbows and let loose, vomiting an absolute bullet hell of magical arrows straight at our boy. Wait, what? Blindsided by the heavy artillery, Louis throws his arms up in a desperate crossguard against the glowing barrage. He barely dances out of the kill zone, as the projectiles completely detonate the forest behind him. "Are you kidding me? Wind arrows again?" he spits, totally tilted. It is the exact same annoying spell kit from earlier. Knowing he cannot afford to play defensive anymore, Louis flips the switch. "Fine then, say goodnight." "Breathing technique," he mutters. His eyes lock onto his targets. It is time to go all out. Louis channels his mana inward. He forces the pure energy through every vein, pushing his physical limits past the breaking point. That signature neon blue light erupts from his eyes. His mission right now? Dead simple. Break the speed limit. Cloaked in a raging blue aura, Louis explodes off the ground like a missile. His movements completely shatter their expectations. "Useless," the assassin boss barks out, calling for another massive wave of wind arrows. Big mistake. He has no idea who he is messing with. Louis literally dances through the deadly crossfire. He dodges the energy, blasts effortlessly, flashing across the battlefield like a streak of blue lightning. One of the goons freezes in pure shock. "Too fast," he stammers, right before Louis vanishes into thin air. "Wait, where did that kid go?" he panics. Boom! Louis materializes right above him, stepping on the dude's crossbow like it is a freaking staircase. Using it as a springboard, he vaults into the sky. He winds up for a devastating strike, catching the entire hit squad slipping. The head assassin barely raises his arms in time to guard, but he is entirely unprepared for the sheer kinetic payload. Louis drops a meteor of a kick right on his guard. Defenses? Shattered. The boss goes flying backward with a gut-wrenching scream. Zero hesitation. Louis contorts his body mid-flight and dive bombs the remaining grunts. They blindly fire up at him in absolute terror. Sprawled out and fuming, the battered boss screams a desperate command. "Take him down," he roars, praying sheer numbers will crush the boy. Following orders, another assassin launches himself into the air, He pours all his mana into a heavy dropkick, aiming to end this right here and now. Grounded below, Louis plants his feet. He braces for the impact. The strike connects. Louis catches the falling kick, but the monstrous momentum throws him off balance. Yeah, this deathmatch is not over yet. Suddenly, white-hot agony flares up his arm. He glances down. The dirty coward slipped a hidden blade into his flesh. Biting back a groan, Louis tanks the damage. He is not backing down, but as he rips himself free, a new shadow drops into the arena. An absolute unit of a warrior, decked out in heavy armor, rocking a signature blue scarf. His sheer presence suffocates the forest. The real raid boss has arrived. Yet, he just stands there, watching his pawns test the boy. In seconds, the kill squad surrounds Louis again. He tries to reposition, but a barrage of magic blasts erupts from every blind spot. It is a literal cage of energy. There is nowhere to run. He cannot evade them all. Multiple raw energy beams slam into him, shattering his aura and leaving him wide open. The brutal combo attack finally takes its toll. Louis crumbles to the dirt. It looks like game over. The hit squad and their commanders circle his body. They are practically tasting the victory. One of the masked grunts lets out a huge breath. Dude finally dropped. He pants, totally wiped out. Just spamming attacks at him emptied my mana. Staring down at the lifeless kid, the thug shakes his head. Is he seriously just some commoner? He was way more of a menace than any normal trainee. But spoiler alert, Louis is far from dead. Instantly, his eyes snap wide open, flaring with a blinding, radioactive blue aura. He was just waiting for them to lower their guard. Before the grunt can even blink, Louis locks his grip around the guy's weapon. His terrifying strength is back, his eyes burning with absolute savage intent. In one fluid, lethal motion, Louis hijacks the dude's momentum. He swings the stolen weapon right back at its owner. The impact is sickening. A gruesome crunch of bone echoes through the dead woods. The assassin's eyes bulge, bloodshot from the trauma. An instant, fatal knockout. Gripping the dead man's battle axe, Louis slowly rises back to his feet like a demon crawling out of hell. Behind him, the lifeless body hits the dirt. A fresh pool of crimson paints the grass. Louis is officially out for blood. Capitalizing on their pure shock, Louis detonates a massive shockwave of aura. The blast wipes out the remaining trash mobs in a split second, clearing the entire arena. But the blue scarf elite? He just stands there, casually swatting the shockwave away. Playing possum, huh? The armored boss chuckles. His voice drips with toxic amusement and morbid curiosity. Louis stands tall over his fresh kill. He is panting hard, but his battle stance is rock solid. The fodder is gone. It is just him and the final boss now. The elite warrior actually starts slow clapping. Not bad for a kid, he smirks. A tiny hint of actual respect bleeds into his cold tone. Tightening his grip on the stolen axe, Louis glares daggers at him. Your own men just died, and you do not even flinch? The boss tilts his head, chillingly unbothered. Why would I care about literal trash? Roaring in fury, Louis chucks the heavy axe straight at the boss's head, testing the waters for this final showdown. Smart move, the elite mocks, casually sidestepping the lethal throw. But in the next millisecond, multiple afterimages of the boss glitch into existence. Blurring into a phantom of pure speed, the elite assassin circles Louis like a predator. His hands suddenly ignite with a sickly, toxic, violet mana. Honestly, if the boss hadn't ordered your execution, the mass killer taunts, hinting at a much darker conspiracy, I would have actually taken you in as my own student. The air warps as he materializes a colossal warhammer out of condensed aura. The weapon practically hums with absolute destruction. Bleeding and cornered, Louis grits his teeth. He hoists his freshly looted axe in a completely desperate gamble to parry the incoming strike. But that corrupt purple aura is on an entirely different level. The spectral weapon crashes down like a falling meteor. Boom. The sheer kinetic impact vaporizes the surrounding trees into splinters, proving exactly why this guy holds the title of an elite ranker. Caught in the blast radius, Louis gets launched like a ragdoll. Agonizing screams rip from his throat as fresh blood paints the sky. This gap in stats is just way too massive to handle. Before gravity can even pull the boy back down, the assassin teleports right above him. Zero breathing room, zero mercy. Charging up a brutal follow-up combo, the masked executioner decides to rub some salt in the wound. For a rookie, your combat sense isn't half bad, he sneers, his eyes glaring with violet malice. But against a high-tier ranker, you are absolutely pathetic. The harsh truth hits Louis just as hard as the physical damage, leaving his face totally distorted in despair. While the boy drowns in the hopeless reality of their power difference, the assassin dive bombs toward the earth with earth-shattering momentum. Predicting Louis' exact crash point, the impact detonates a violent shockwave of dirt and raw mana, swallowing the entire battlefield in a choking dust cloud. Vision drops to absolute zero. Cloaked in an oppressive, dark aura, the killer casually floats down into the massive crater he just carved out. Just to make absolutely sure his target is a corpse, he flexes his mana again. Grotesque tentacles of shadow magic erupt from his core. It is an overkill strike meant to erase everything. But as the thick smog finally clears, the terrifying aftermath is slowly revealed. The terrain is literally pulverized into dust. Peering into the absolute dead center of the wreckage, the elite ranker freezes. Behind that emotionless mask, his entire posture screams pure shock. Wait, how is this trash still breathing? He mutters in disbelief. Running on pure, unfiltered willpower, Louis forces his broken body upward. His vital energy flares so intensely that his glowing skeletal frame literally flashes visible. Through shredded muscles and spilling blood, he makes a vow. I refuse to let my story end here, he wheezes out. But the cold-blooded killer does not care about underdog speeches. Such a pointless struggle, he scoffs, lifting his hand for the kill shot. Game over, kid. Pumping his mana reserves to the absolute maximum, that apocalyptic purple warhammer materializes in the sky once more. Even the heavens cannot save you from this. Louis stares death right in the face as the ultimate strike plummets toward him. The executioner coldly chants his signature move, Arcane Arts, Heavenly Hammer. The massive construct obliterates the remaining ground. A blinding tsunami of violet mana floods the crater, threatening to erase Louis from existence entirely. But hovering right on the brink of death, a spark of sheer defiance ignites inside the boy's soul. I am not dying today. A bittersweet flashback hits him like a truck. Visions of his chaotic orphanage days flash by, anchored by the warm smile of his beloved sister, Lazira. His true reason for fighting awakens. I need to reach the apex of magic. I have to protect my people. That desperate love acts as a catalyst, forcibly mutating his aura. Snapping his eyes open to reveal a blazing crimson glow, Louis punches upward, unleashing a horrifying geyser of blood-red demonic power. I will survive this, he roars, his voice tearing the heavens apart. This savage scarlet aura does not just block the elite's ultimate attack, it actually starts eating it alive. The two titanic forces lock in a chaotic struggle that shatters every law of physics. The assassin's jaw practically drops. He stands there completely paralyzed, watching his ultimate trump card get shredded to pieces. Crushed by a latent power he assumed this weakling never possessed. The critical mass of their colliding auras sets off a blinding supernova. The shockwave flattens the entire battlefield. When the flash fades, Louis is sprawled out in the scorched dirt, completely drained. Hacking up blood, his muscles refuse to move. He literally burned up his entire mana pool just to survive that single exchange. Just a few feet away, the masked killer stares blankly at his fallen weapon. The once terrifying purple glow is now sputtering out like a dying candle. What was that? He stammers, genuinely rattled. That cocky, untouchable attitude? Yeah, that is completely gone now. A cold sweat drips down his neck as pure dread sets in. For a second there, I felt like I was fighting a true monster, he confesses. He finally acknowledges the terrifying truth. In that split second, the boy's combat power actually rivaled, or even eclipsed, his own rank. Gripping his hammer with visibly shaking hands, he towers over the paralyzed boy. He needs to end this right now before things get worse. Just die already, you freak, he screams. But right before the lethal strike connects, a mysterious voice violently commands them to stop. Boom. A secondary, absolutely massive shockwave of emerald green mana bursts out of Louis, blasting the killer backward. The sheer kinetic force of this new aura launches the elite warrior straight into the sky, while Louis remains safely anchored to the earth. Caught dead in the center of the emerald blast, the assassin floats completely paralyzed. Glowing green chains of pure energy whip around his body. They bind him tight, sealing off absolutely every escape route. For the first time today, the executioner's face twists into absolute terror. What in the world is happening? He stammers. The sheer weight of the aura in front of him is absolutely suffocating. Blinding pillars of energy shred right through the assassin's body. He shrieks in pure agony as the uncontrollable barrage of power blasts him into oblivion. Down below, Louis just stares at the sky. He looks totally clueless, completely unaware of the god-tier destructive force he just unleashed. Suddenly, the air itself grows heavy. Aronian, the legendary academy headmaster, descends from above, radiating an incredibly intimidating aura. He instantly steps in front of the severely wounded Louis, shielding him like an unbreakable wall. Louis slowly lifts his head, and absolute relief washes over his pale face. "Director?" he gasps out. Aronian steps closer, pulling out a glowing vial. He explains that he managed to seal away Louis's berserker rage, at least for the moment, but he orders the boy to down this magic elixir immediately. Barely clinging to consciousness, Louis forces the liquid down his throat, while Aronian watches him with piercing eyes. Meanwhile, in the distance, the ruined body of the assassin violently smashes through the forest canopy. The headmaster slowly turns toward the wreckage. His face is a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. "You dare attack an examinee of my academy? His voice drips with lethal intent. "Who gave the kill order?" he growls. The broken assassin crawls through the dirt, shaking violently. He spits out the title Grandmaster and sneers a final warning. "Do not think you can protect that absolute monster." The camera zooms in on Aronian's terrifying gaze. His eyes flare with a sinister, glowing purple mana as he absorbs the sheer disrespect and the hitman's arrogant insolence. Flashing a twisted, psycho smile through his one good bloodshot eye, the killer declares that the nightmare is far from over. He claims this is just the prologue, but before he can blink, the assassin's body literally explodes into a horrifying shower of crimson. The brutal confrontation ends in an instant bloodbath. Aronian just stands there in dead silence, unfazed by the gore. The dark forest swallows the battlefield once more. Stroking his chin with a heavy frown, the director wonders if that was a suicide pact. Could the Underworld's Assassin Guild really be making a move? He prays he's wrong. Cutting back to Louis, the kid is staring at his hands in pure shock. "No way. Is this what a high-tier elixir feels like?" He hypes up, feeling a massive surge of vitality rushing through his veins. Louis leaps to his feet, clenching his fists, as his strength totally maxes out. "Bro, even my shattered bones are perfectly fused back together," he shouts, absolutely buzzing with fresh adrenaline. Now, back at 100% HP, Louis locks eyes with the headmaster. "Director, you weren't just taking a midnight stroll, were you?" He presses the issue, his stare sharp and totally unyielding. And then, he finally drops the burning question. "Why are you always the one saving my life?" Aronian meets his intense gaze without breaking a sweat, but he totally dodges the answer. "We will talk about this at your house," he states smoothly, leaving Louis totally, utterly speechless. Suddenly, a massive reality check hits Louis like a freight train, completely wiping the director's mysterious vibe from his brain. He clutches his hair in absolute panic. Crap, it is way too late. My mom is going to freak out. Screaming that he is a dead man walking, Louis activates his top speed and blasts toward his house, leaving Aronian in the dust. The director quietly tracks his departure, waiting until the kid is totally out of sight before pivoting to handle the dirty work. Standing alone in the dark, Aronian summons a creeping shadow. "Kylie," he commands with chilling calmness. "Erase everything. He is a total perfectionist. There will be absolutely zero evidence left behind." The Phantom Operative moves like lightning, instantly smoothing over the massive craters and wiping away every single drop of blood from the epic clash. We cut to the icy northern borders of the Kandrian Empire, landing right in the sleepy town of Mantia. Bathed in pale moonlight, two low-level scumbags are cornering a helpless nun outside a ragged house. "Who gave you permission to mess with that busted millstone?" one of the thugs barks. They violently accuse her of dodging the local milling taxes and disrespecting the region's noble lord. The gentle nun, Sister La Sierra, shrinks back, quietly pleading that she is just waiting for her kids to come home. But the blue-haired street rat isn't having it. He viciously yanks her arm. "Quit your lying," he snarls like a rabid dog. "Looks like we need to teach you a painful lesson." Boom! Out of absolutely nowhere, a lightning-fast strike obliterates the thug's jaw, sending teeth and blood flying. Louis just made his heroic entrance. With a devastating roundhouse kick, he totally flattens the trash trying to hurt his mom, leaving the guy knocked out cold on the dirt. The second thug and Sister La Sierra are completely paralyzed by the sudden aggro. Without skipping a single beat, Louis dashes at the backup goon and instantly one-shots him with brutal efficiency. "Louis, you finally made it back," his mom gasps, her voice a total mix of massive relief and spiking anxiety. Sister La Sierra's eyes are wide with pure shock. She covers her mouth with shaking hands, totally overwhelmed by the sudden burst of violence. Louis sprints right up to her. "Mom, did they hurt you?" he demands, not even giving a second glance to the trash mobs he just trashed. She reaches out to cup his cheek, but her warm smile instantly shatters into pure panic when she scans his battered body. "Oh my God, what happened to you? Your clothes are shredded, and you are literally dripping blood." Sweating bullets, Louis frantically scrambles for an alibi. "I swear I am perfectly fine. Seriously, don't stress. I just tripped and snagged my shirt on some wild branches during the practical exam." His mom glares at him, totally not buying that weak excuse. But right at that dramatic second, the thug, rocking a purple bandana, groggily forces himself back up from the dirt. Boiling with rage and totally humiliated, the thug screams at Luis, "You little punk, always crossing the line. Are you begging for the wrath of the Lord?" Both goons shoot him a lethal glare. The tension skyrockets as they threaten to summon a legendary brawler named George, ready to snitch on Luis and drag him before the local lord. His mother desperately pulls him close, trembling. But in that split second, the heavens part. Aronian slowly descends from the clouds, defying gravity itself. "Looks like we have a slight misunderstanding here," he echoes. His chillingly calm voice completely paralyzes the two bullies. Landing without making a single sound, Aronian rests a reassuring hand on the shoulder of the boy. Then, he drops his title. I am Aronian, director of the Candria Academy of Arcanists. All the color instantly drains from the faces of the lackeys. The dude was literally floating. He is a legit grandmaster. They stutter in absolute dread, finally realizing the terrifying mountain of power, casting a shadow over them. Piercing them with a frostbitten glare, Aronian delivers a heavy, undeniable warning. Send my warmest regards to your lord. Are we clear? Shaking like leaves, the two thugs bow so hard they nearly hit the dirt. Yes, absolutely, Grandmaster. We are out of your hair. They scramble away like stray dogs. Watching the trash take itself out, Aronian turns his focus to Sister Laziera. You must be the mother of Luis, am I right? He asks softly. I know this is super abrupt, but we have some serious matters to discuss. Stepping inside their cozy, run-down cottage, she nervously guides them toward the crackling fireplace. Please, make yourselves comfortable, she murmurs, still visibly shell-shocked. But the eyes of the director instantly lock onto a bizarre, mechanical millstone. So this is the mystery device the nobles have been whispering about, he thinks to himself. It was spinning flawlessly, without a single drop of mana. Mind blown, he scans the rest of the room. This stuff is everywhere, he whispers, his curiosity morphing into pure awe as he looks around. From the ceiling beams to the wooden chandeliers, the entire crib is rigged, with crazy complex gears and flawless craftsmanship, all born from the absolute genius of Luis. A quick flashback hits, showing our boy deep in the zone, tinkering with metal, and proving he is a literal prodigy with mechanics. Pouring the director a warm drink, his mom beams with pride. She admits she has zero clue how his brain works, but her son built every gadget in here from scratch, totally upgrading their daily lives. But panic creeps back into her voice. Did he mess up during the exam? Is that why the big boss showed up at our doorstep? Aronian just flashes a warm smile. Not even close. Your son shattered every single expectation we had. But then, the face of the director turns dead serious. A gift like this, he mutters under his breath. I have only read about it in the ancient scriptures of Ga. The vibe shifts as he dives into a legendary lore drop. Eons ago, when mankind was getting slaughtered by nightmarish beasts, a lone prodigy stepped onto the battlefield, blessed by the goddess herself. This absolute legend cracked the code of the elements and birthed the very first arcane martial arts. Fast forward 5 years, and he was spotted unleashing a devastating, pitch-black aura. The flashback rolls, showing this epic hero and his squad clashing with the monster hordes, obliterating them with god-tier strikes and pulling humanity back from the brink of extinction. That iconic day sparked the dawn of the sacred calendar. We call it the Day of Liberation. Even now, the world parties to celebrate, surviving that monster apocalypse. In the holy texts, he is worshipped as the first hero. Hearing this, the mother is completely starstruck, praising this guy as the ultimate savior. But Luis, sharp as a tack, cuts in. Wait a second. In all the bedtime stories, there is no solo hero who saved the world, right? The room goes ice cold. The director looks down. No. He does exist in the records, just painted in a totally different light. His voice drops to a heavy whisper. He was a man with jet black hair and pitch black eyes. That bombshell hits like a freight train. Running on pure maternal instinct, she violently yanks Luis into a protective hug. The kid looks absolutely paralyzed by the truth. Aronian keeps going, his tone completely grim. This is a massive, classified secret, guarded only by the absolute top tiers of society. The legend of the first hero has a brutal dark side. Yes, he saved the world, but pure insanity rotted his soul. The visuals shift to a horrific scene. The hero, weeping blood from his eyes, utterly hijacked by a psychotic thirst for carnage. He crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Standing in a sea of blood, surrounded by the mangled corpses of his own ride-or-die comrades, the world had no choice but to scrub his existence from history. Eerie red chains flash on screen, showing how his cursed legacy was locked away in the dark forever. That terrifying madness takes the form of a demonic red eye, a literal curse haunting the shadows of time. Snapping back to reality, Luis stares down at his wrapped fists, his mind racing back to his own recent, violent power awakening. Inner madness. Wait, is that what happened to me? He panics, putting the terrifying puzzle pieces together. Then, Aronian delivers, the ultimate gut punch. Because of this cursed history, across every single kingdom, if anyone is born with black hair and black eyes, it is an immediate death sentence. Aronian gently reaches out, running his fingers through the dark hair of the boy, confirming his worst nightmare. Did you honestly think cheap hair dye could hide your true nature forever? Sister Lucira completely loses it, throwing herself in front of Louis like a human shield. It was my fault, she begs. I forced him to hide his roots. I was terrified they would take him away. Please, he has a pure heart. but Louis just gently grabs her shoulder, radiating a calm energy that completely defies his age. "Take a breath, Mom. We are fine," he whispers, locking eyes with her before turning his deadly gaze back to Aronian. "Your logic is flawed. If the headmaster wanted my head, I would already be a corpse. Stepping foot in this rundown place means you need something." Aronian just smirks, totally blown away by the kid's absolute zero-chill attitude. 13 years old, yet sharper than a master, he praises. "You did not just survive that dark energy, you completely tamed it." That spark? That is the birth of a legend. The room drops into dead silence. A legend? Louis and his mom blink in pure shock. "Exactly," Aronian states with heavy gravity. Violet aura flares around the headmaster's fingers as an apple floats into the air. His playful vibe vanishes entirely. "Society looks like a perfectly painted picture on the outside," he warns. "But underneath this fragile piece, shadows are constantly waiting to devour us." He glides the floating fruit toward the moonlight, letting the silver beams illuminate it as he drops a massive truth bomb. "Those fairy tales they feed, you are garbage." His eyes lock onto Louis, burning with intense purpose. "I am going to forge you into the ultimate weapon to save humanity's future." With a flick of his wrist, the apple shoots at Louis like a bullet. Smack! The boy catches it barehanded without flinching, his eyes practically screaming, "Are you kidding me right now?" Unbothered by the glare, Aronian turns his back, delivering the final verdict. Because Faye and Kane went entirely rogue, 99% of the applicants were wiped out, which means you survived. He pivots back, extending a gloved hand wrapped in absolute authority. "Welcome to Candria Academy of Arcanists. How would you like to be my personal disciple?" A subtle smirk tugs at the corner of Louis's mouth. "Putting all your chips on a wild card, huh?" he scoffs. Then, the air freezes as Louis drops the ultimate red flag question. "And what happens when the monster inside me takes over?" Aronian's face turns to absolute stone. Menacing violet mana erupts from his pupils, crushing the room's gravity like a physical weight. Swish! The headmaster's fingers slice through the air, right at the apple in Louis's palm. A chill rips down the boy's spine. This is not an acceptance letter, it is a death contract. Bathed in moonlight, the Supreme Mage delivers a bone-chilling vow. "The second you slip, I will personally erase you from existence." Fast forward, and Louis's best bro is straight up losing his mind. "Bro, no way. Are you dead serious right now? The legendary headmaster Aronian actually headhunted you?" Louis just stares at the ground, a heavy shadow crossing his face. "Yeah, but giving me a golden ticket was not his only agenda. While his buddy is practically throwing a party, Louis is drowning in a sea of anxiety. The insane tuition fees, the elite uniforms, boarding costs, it is a financial nightmare. But worse than the money? That absolute death threat playing on loop in his brain. A terrifying vision flashes before his eyes. A demonic reflection, eyes burning with chaotic energy, dripping with pure malice. He questions his own twisted ties to the ancient hero's legacy. This dark mana pulsing through his veins feels ancient, whispering secrets of a forgotten bloodline. It is the ultimate double-edged sword, supreme power cursed with impending doom. The memory pulls him back, to that intense standoff with the headmaster. Aronian had grabbed a strand of his hair, his gaze cutting right through the boy's soul. "Did you honestly think that some cheap drugstore dye could mask your true aura?" He had mocked, completely exposing the boy's deepest secret. And then came the ultimate reality check. With eyes glowing like predatory neon, he promised an instant, brutal execution if the darkness ever won. Snapping back to reality, Louis cannot help but wonder, is this mentor about to be his savior, or his executioner? Right now, the young protagonist marches side by side with Aronian, leaving the crumbling orphanage behind. "Why let my mom hear all that classified intel?" Louis demands, his protective instincts flaring. Aronian does not even look back, dropping a freezing dose of logic. "Ignorance gets people killed. She needs to know, so she does not become dead weight." Louis stops dead in his tracks, pure fury igniting in his chest. "Do not ever call my mother a burden," he barks, ready to throw hands with a supreme mage over his family's honor. Finally, Aronian turns around, dropping the harsh truth. "The second the world realizes who you really are, your entire family gets painted with a giant target." He explains that as a mother, she has to grasp the terrifying stakes so she can actually survive the coming storm. Suddenly, violent shockwaves of mana explode around the headmaster as he defies gravity, floating upward to deliver one last piece of savage advice. "Level up, kid, because hell is about to break loose." Staring at the majestic illusion of Candria Academy burning into the sky, Louis grips his fists until his knuckles turn white. The old man is not wrong. A fire awakens in his core. He swears on his life to shatter his limits and become an absolute powerhouse to shield his family. Out of nowhere, the heavy tension shatters like glass as familiar chaotic voices echo out. Little Lana comes sprinting at him like a guided missile, screaming, Big Brother Louis, at the top of her lungs. The rest of the orphanage squad trails right behind her, beaming with pure sunshine. Louis drops to one knee, catching the little girl in a massive, warm hug. But as he holds her, his bright smile slowly fades into a heartbreaking reality. Tears completely flood little Lana's eyes as she begs him not to leave. She absolutely refuses to say goodbye, burying her face into his chest with an iron grip. A soft smile crosses Louis's face as he gently ruffles her hair. He swears on his life that he will return for the long holidays, because this orphanage is his true sanctuary. To lock in the vow, they intertwine their pinkies. Staring up with pure innocence, Lana whispers that only total villains ever break their promises. Louis chuckles, swearing that his word is absolute law. But this incredibly wholesome moment shatters instantly when a buddy sprints over, totally out of breath, announcing that some high-ranking noble's butler is hunting for him. Louis and the entire orphanage freeze in absolute shock. A flawlessly dressed butler, rocking a sharp top hat and backed by a ridiculously flexed-out carriage, steps right up to Louis. With stiff formality, the man verifies his identity. He then bows, introducing himself as a servant of the legendary Aranka bloodline, dropping a massive bombshell that his young master is officially requesting Louis's presence at their estate. The man slides him a premium envelope. Louis rips it open, and his jaw practically hits the floor when he spots Kane's signature. His brain short-circuits. Is this insanely overpowered dude actually trying to build a bromance before the Academy arc even kicks off? Shaking off the pure disbelief, Louis gives a polite nod and accepts the summon. The butler gestures toward the VIP ride, and boom, we cut to a breathtaking bird's-eye shot of Arson. This is the crown jewel city of the Kandria Empire, and our boy's final stop. As the carriage rolls through the streets, the massive lore drops. The Aranka clan isn't just rich, they are a god-tier noble house. Their flex is so cosmic that the entire metropolis of Arson literally spawned just to support them. Pulling up to the gates, Louis glues his face to the window, completely paralyzed by the sheer scale of their palace. It is blindingly massive. His brain is so fried by the wealth that he completely misses the VIP waiting to ambush him. Before he can even process the insane architecture, a blonde powerhouse sprints at the carriage like a total golden retriever, screaming Louis's name at the top of his lungs. It is none other than Kane Aranka, the young duke himself, radiating pure hype. He practically tackles Louis with excitement, hyped out of his mind that they are official classmates. Kane admits he heard the insane rumors about Louis absolutely breaking the final exam. He is completely fanboying over his raw power. Strolling through the ridiculously lavish courtyard, Louis humbly credits Kane for his passing grade. But Kane instantly waves it off. He claims their previous bet was basically voided the second Louis unleashed his actual god-tier potential. In his eyes, our main character was already a certified legend. Once they step inside the colossal manor, Kane's battle-hungry aura flares up. He boldly declares that since they got robbed of a proper one-on-one during the trials, Louis is now officially locked in as his personal sparring partner until the semester starts. Closing the gap with a super chaotic smirk, the blonde noble playfully teases that Louis is probably dying to unlock some exclusive Academy magic secrets early. Our boy, completely drowning in this extrovert energy, just lets out an exhausted sigh. But out of nowhere, an absolutely freezing, boss-level voice slices right through their banter. A terrifyingly elegant woman steps out of the shadows, demanding to know why her heir is making such a racket. Enter the final boss of high society, the Grand Duchess Aranka. Rocking a gaze filled with absolute zero warmth and snapping her fan, she scans Louis like he is literally trash on her floor, coldly demanding his identity. Kane desperately tries to save the vibe. He proudly introduces Louis as his absolute best bro, but the woman brutally shuts him down. Silence. The matriarch fires a death glare so venomous it completely paralyzes her son mid-sentence. Kane's jaw locks, absolutely reeling from this totally unprovoked and savage hostility. Dominating the room from the peak of the grand staircase, she viciously tears into Kane, reminding him of her strict zero-tolerance policy for mingling with peasants. Her ruthlessly arrogant tone bounces off the marble walls, spitting venom as she questions when exactly the legendary Aranka gates turned into a charity shelter for random strays. Dripping with pure elitist disgust, she publicly brands Louis as entirely unworthy to even breathe the same air as her bloodline. Hanging out with him? A catastrophic waste of potential. Kane's soul practically crumbles as his mother commands him to blindly grind his training, forcing his father's suffocating dream of him becoming a sage, while totally trashing his very first real friendship. The view brilliantly pans down to Louis's beat-up leather boots, sinking into their astronomically expensive red carpet. It is the ultimate visual slap in the face, highlighting the brutal class war between them. The Ice Queen glides down the steps, planting herself right in Louis's personal space, with eyes full of utter revulsion. She brutally interrogates his hidden agenda for leeching off her heir. Is it cold, hard, cash, or political clout. Without missing a beat, she slips off a blinding gold ring, tossing it out as a disgustingly massive bribe. She brags that it holds enough fortune to feed his entire bloodline for life. Her one condition? Grab the loot and vanish forever. To deliver the absolute maximum level of disrespect, she lets the treasure slip from her fingers. The gold violently clatters against the floor, perfectly rolling right to the tip of Louis's shoe. Looking at him like an actual insect, she commands him to fetch like a dog and scram. That is the breaking point. Kane's aura violently erupts. "Mother!" he roars, his features completely shattered by betrayal and absolute rage. How could she sink to this level of cruelty? Panic-stricken, he violently whips his head toward his bro, practically drowning in guilt. "I am so sorry, man," he chokes out, utterly humiliated by his own flesh and blood. Meanwhile, Louis, who has been dead silent this entire time, crouching down, he finally breaks the silence. He declares that his bond with Kane wasn't built on pity, but on pure respect for his raw potential. Snatching the discarded ring from the cold floor, he stands tall. With the jewelry gripped tightly in his hand, he glares straight into the Duchess's eyes. He completely throws down the gauntlet. Does she honestly think her own son's sacred word means absolutely nothing? Kane's breath hitches in his throat. He stares at his friend in pure awe, completely stunned by Louis's fearless defense of their hard-earned brotherhood. The Grand Duchess absolutely loses her mind. Her aristocratic mask shatters instantly, completely humiliated that a lowly commoner would dare talk back to her. She screeches at the top of her lungs, ordering her men to toss this trash into the streets. Heavily armored guards immediately swarm the room, preparing to violently drag Louis away. But Kane doesn't even hesitate. He throws himself right into the line of fire, shielding his friend with his own body. "Stop right there," he roars in sheer desperation. He confesses that Louis's potential completely eclipses his own, shattering Academy records left and right, and even crushing him in a head-to-head duel. The Duchess just throws her head back and cackles, treating the shocking confession like a pathetic joke. A filthy peasant outshining elite noble blood? She sneers with absolute disgust. Did you actually think such a garbage lie would save him? But Kane stands his ground, swearing on his life. Sensing the rising tension, Louis calmly rests a steady hand on his friend's trembling shoulder. That unbothered smirk just fuels the Duchess's raging inferno. Louis coolly drops a bombshell. "If I stick around, Kane's power will absolutely skyrocket." That absolute disrespect snaps her final thread of sanity. "How dare a worthless street rat act so cocky?" the noblewoman shrieks, completely unhinged, furious that he would openly mock the legendary Aranka name. Fueled by their master's explosive wrath, the guards draw their weapons to strike him down. But right before the chaos erupts, the massive double doors blast open. A mountain of a man steps from the shadows, freezing the entire room dead in its tracks. His suffocating presence alone swallows all the sound. This is William Aranka, the supreme patriarch of the Bloodline. With a terrifying calm, he slowly repeats the bold claim. "If you stay close, my son will grow stronger." His piercing eyes lock onto Louis like a predator, and the temperature in the room plummets. "Those were your exact words, weren't they?" he rumbles, his voice dripping with absolute authority. The raging Duchess instantly turns pale as a ghost. "Master," she stammers out, violently reminded of who really runs this house. Slapping on a painfully fake smile, with cold sweat dripping down her face, she bows her head. In just one split second, this monster completely hijacked the room's energy. She scrambles to justify her tantrum, whining that letting peasant trash infect their home will permanently stunt their heir's growth. But William literally treats her like thin air, strolling right past her, without batting a single eyelash. His crimson cloak flows like fresh blood, as he claims the absolute center of the grand hall. Kane instantly drops into a deep, respectful bow, honoring the terrifying head of his household. Meanwhile, Louis refuses to flinch, smoothly stepping up to introduce himself. "It is an absolute honor, Grandmaster Aranka. I am Kane's brother-in-arms, Louis Carroll." But on the inside, alarm bells are absolutely screaming in his head. The aura radiating off this guy is insane, easily matching the monstrous power of Director Aronian. William finally shifts his deadly gaze to his son, Kane. "Is he telling the truth?" he demands, testing the reality of this commoner's hype. Kane squares his shoulders, staring directly into his father's soul. "He is undeniably miles ahead of me," he confesses proudly. A psychotic glint flashes in the patriarch's eyes. He snaps his head back to Louis and drops a bone-chilling command. "Then prove it." Boom, the patriarch detonates his mana. A massive tsunami of blood-red aura explodes outward, instantly manifesting into a monstrous, roaring phantom tiger. This is the apex predator, the supreme ruler of the Aranka bloodline, and his raw power is absolutely godlike. The crushing gravity of that aura slams into Louis like a freight train. This killing intent is off the charts. He panics, as the crimson energy swallows the entire room. The spectral beast of pure murder launches itself, tearing through the air like a missile of pure hatred. The spiritual pressure is so insanely thick, it actually physically crushes his bones, violently squeezing every single ounce of oxygen from his collapsing lungs. Louis fights like hell just to keep his knees from buckling, trembling under the suffocating weight. As a horrific realization sends shivers down his spine, the Grandmaster's eyes burn with a demonic crimson glow. There is zero mercy in that stare. This isn't some cute entrance exam, muscles shaking violently from the strain. Louis bites down hard and braces for impact. He finally understands the brutal stakes of this lethal game. Warning sirens blare in his mind with crystal clarity. This absolute monster isn't testing me. He's actually trying to execute me. The Patriarch's death glare crashes against the boy's unbreakable resolve, and Louis's own eyes suddenly ignite with power. The spiritual gravity threatens to flatten him, a dominant force so horrific, it feels like his very soul is being violently ripped from his flesh. But the kid refuses to bow. Glaring right back into the abyss with glowing red eyes, he forcefully cranks up his own mana circuit, sparking a blazing inferno in the palm of his hand. He immediately clocks this insane power level as the legendary domain of a Grandmaster. But little do they know, years of slaughtering nightmare-class monsters permanently hardwired his brain to resist pure killing intent. Flashing a dangerously calm smirk, he boldly declares that this pathetic level of pressure just isn't going to cut it. He refuses to back down. Without warning, Louis shatters his internal limits. A cataclysmic wave of raw energy detonates around him, unleashing a raging inferno that violently spirals outward. The sheer force of his awakened aura sends shockwaves tearing through the massive hall, absolutely paralyzing the onlookers. Nobody saw this insane flex of power coming. William Aranca, Kane's intimidating father, drops his stoic facade. His eyes widen in absolute disbelief at the monstrous strength erupting before him. The blistering heat materializes right behind Louis. It morphs into the terrifying visage of a blazing flame dragon, a breathtaking testament to his hidden potential. His glowing crimson eyes lock onto his target. They burn with an unyielding, unbreakable resolve as he pushes his mana to the absolute brink. The blazing dragon violently slams head-on into William's colossal tiger aura. The devastating collision literally launches the bystanders off their feet. It is an epic clash of pure willpower. Louis's roaring inferno battles fiercely against William's crimson beast. A massive crater forms as blinding dust and shattered debris swallow the battlefield, leaving the victor completely cloaked in shadows. As the smoke finally clears, Louis drops to one knee. He is completely drained, yet miraculously breathing, directly beneath William's towering shadow. Kane instantly sprints over to his friend. Panic floods his voice as he hauls Louis back to his feet, desperately checking for injuries. Gasping for air, Louis nods that he is still standing. The Patriarch's booming voice echoes as he formally addresses the boy, Louis Carroll. He demands to know his true drive. Why do you crave such power? Without skipping a single beat, Louis's voice rings out with absolute certainty. To shield my family. This core motivation fuels his insane grind. The sheer weight of that answer completely silences the terrifying Patriarch, leaving him frozen in deep thought as he digests the heavy, honorable burden this kid carries. Pivoting to his own blood, William ruthlessly calls out Kane's fragile mentality. He coldly orders his son to take notes from Louis's ironclad resolve. The noblewoman recoils in absolute horror. She shrieks her husband's name, desperately trying to defend her son's honor. William, have you lost your mind? But the Patriarch merely shoots her a bone-chilling glare, daring her to question his absolute authority. That single, suffocating look instantly crushes her defiance. She stutters out a weak apology, visibly shaking under his monstrous presence, while Kane just stands there, totally voiceless. A storm of dark, conflicted emotions brews in his gut before he finally shatters the tense silence. Desperate to escape the suffocating family drama, he begs Louis to hit the training grounds. Louis instantly flashes a reassuring grin and agrees. The duo quickly bails, making their way to the legendary Aranca martial arts compound. Once the dust settles, Kane drops his head, painfully apologizing for his family's toxic display, but Louis totally waves it off, refusing to let him stress over it. He casually laughs that while the old man is wildly hardcore, the two of them are honestly cut from the exact same cloth. The facade drops. Kane finally spills his darkest insecurities, admitting that his father only worships raw, undisputed talent. He tragically confesses the truth. To win that monster's approval, an absolute prodigy like Louis should be the one inheriting the throne, not a disappointment like himself. The heartbreaking admission completely exposes the crushing imposter syndrome eating away at his soul, but Louis just hits him with a warm, knowing smile. He points out that the Patriarch's brutal trial was actually meant to push Kane forward. It is just the old man's completely unhinged, twisted way of showing tough love. Kane's head snaps up, utterly shell-shocked by this massive reality check, as those profound words violently rewire his brain. The camera zooms into his trembling eyes, revealing a deep, tectonic shift in his destiny.